is another edition of Comics Cast Let It Out. And it's a beautiful August 28th. And we took a little bit of a break, but we have a great guest today. But before I talk to you about who that guest is, I just want to let you know if it's your first time here on Comics Cast, I just want to let you know what it's about. So Comics Cast, if you're in the indie comic community or the indie community, we want to get eyes on you. We are all about promoting the independent author, writer, inker, colorist, you name it. If you're in the indie comic game, we want you on this show. And Let It Out, that's this show. It's where we feature one of those guests and we put eyes on them. We get to talk about their origin story, their creative journey. We get to draw along with them. And overall, it's a great treat. And today is no exception. We are featuring a return guest. His name is Mr. Jared Brown. It's been almost a year since he graced our show, and he's done a lot. In fact, he's coming hot off the heels of a successful Kickstarter that just wrapped up. And we're going to talk about that a little later. But let's just not waste any time. Let's get to the show. So that being said, let's get it going. Hey, how you doing?
How you doing? Pretty good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's awesome. It's always a treat. We had a wonderful, super awesome pre-show yesterday. It was nice to get reacquainted with you. Yeah. And yeah, it's going to be a fun show. Yeah, so let me put in the comments field. I'm going to put Jared's social media because I know you're going to want to like, follow, subscribe. You're going to want to follow this gentleman. So follow Jared. He's on Instagram at Darkstream Studios, and he's also at Advent Dark, which is the colossal comic book that just got crowdfunded recently. And you can follow him also on Twitter at JDB Illustrator on Twitter. So I'm gonna leave that up there for a little while. I don't want you to go there just yet because I want you to be here on the show because we want to give our undivided attention to Mr. Jared Brown. So say hi to everybody, Jared, first. Let's get that out the way.
Hi.
All right. Yeah. Like I said, I am still on a high from yesterday. We did a pre-show, and if any of our guests can attest, sometimes our pre-shows could be shows because it's not only just testing the AV equipment, but we could do a little bit of a dry run to figure out what we're going to do during the show. But I had such a good time catching up with you.
There's always so much stuff you can go over and talk about. It's like just fill it for hours of just ridiculous things to go over.
Yeah, well, especially when you got a ridiculous amount of talent and skill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand the mic over to you, and we're going to do the part of the show which we call the origin story. I think when you were here, it was called the elevator pitch, but we want to keep it, comic oriented. So let's do the origin story. So I would love for you to, if any of our audience hasn't seen your last appearance, we can do a little brief synopsis of your creative journey. And then from there, go along and talk about what you've been up to. And, we'll go from there. And while you're doing that, I'm going to share some of the artwork that you gave to me. So that way we can have that as a visual aid to your origin story. So the mic is in your hands. Please tell all.
Thank you very much. Pretty much, if you like a little bit of Men in Black, you like a little bit of Hellboy. It's kind of a mixture of the both. You've got an alien-human hybrid. She runs around for a secret, the secret government agency trope, and basically protects the world from anything from the supernatural to extraterrestrial threat. Second issue, we're introduced to a large skinwalker named Wyatt Deshane. He's an ex-reservation police officer. He had a terrible tragedy. He ends up at the facility with Danny and her crew and kind of gets put onto the team as the strong man, the big man of the group. Every group has that. And all the while, there's an underlying, I guess you want to call it, they don't really know where she comes from. We're dropping little hints there, and there's only so much you can reveal because of later stories. It's where the background starts to really flesh itself out. But for now, she's just a very powerful, very dry sense of humor kind of character that's just out there doing what she can to keep everybody safe.
So basically, you're talking uh, about Advent Dark, which is your comic, and the
Yes.
main hero or heroine protagonist of this story is Danny. And here
Yes.
we have like I always like this cover. This was one of my
That's a
favorite
lot
covers
of
because
people. I originally wanted to be glow in the dark, but I couldn't get a cover at
yeah,
that time. So
uh, and this is Danny. And what I liked about this one, this is a play on like a very minimalistic, but your mind fills in the blanks, and it just has such a striking composition, and of course it showcases your unique coloring style, which is so punchy. But I just wanted to like show, it was good that we ended on this, but I wanted to show this, and I wanted to like talk about we have more covers here, and I believe this is issue 3, which was just
yep.
crowdfunded as early as last week. Congratulations
Thank you.
on
Thank you.
that. I
Yeah.
think the numbers was it 2,661, just close to $3,000. I got 35 backers.
Yep.
Phenomenal. I'm glad that on your third Kickstarter successful, you're gonna have to write a book on how to do a successful crowdfunder because I think it's really
There's
cool.
still I learned a lot. There's still a lot I got to do. So it's
Uh,
the first one, like you're literally, your brain kind of gets full. You're doing all the research. You're
yeah.
asking people questions. People are good enough to help you out. Things
Uh-huh.
like that. So it's a big process. It really is.
Yeah, I think so, but you were successful, and we're going to actually talk a little bit about that a little later on the show. So I want people to stick around for that because, also along with your origin story, I just want to give some proper shout out to your skills because not only are you the writer, you're the illustrator, the
I'm
inker.
not the writer. I am not the writer.
Oh, story. Yes,
Story.
yes.
Yes, I'm story. Johnny C is my writer. He puts in all the hard
Yes,
work there, and he's
yes. I want to thank you for correcting me because
he'll
we
kill
talked
me
about
if I
this
yeah
yesterday.
no
Yes, exactly. Story. Like you came up with the characters, you came up with the general like outline, but the writer is Johnny C. So make sure shout out props to Johnny C.
hmm
Gonna have to get him on the show here too.
Yeah, he's
Uh,
bigger in life. He's a good time. Yeah,
yeah, he
very
is.
very good, very good
I've
writer.
got a chance to talk to him on some other podcasts, and he is a larger than life personality, extremely talented individual. But today is all about you. We want to talk about your collaboration with him, which is Advent Dark, and this is the third issue, which is crowdfunded, and I'm going to show some of the covers here.
hmm
Um, great composition, and it's that color. And this is we're going to get a treat for doing or we're going to get showcased showcase your talent in coloring because that's what I really noticed about your artwork. You're really good with those your color theory about those really punchy colors, the neons and the fuchsias, and how they almost look 3-dimensional. And we can see these in these covers. Um, yeah, I just can't get over this. Just really
I,
great work.
I wanted to as like a little homage to the heavy metal, so I put her in like the dystopian
Yeah.
sci-fi kind of look. It was tough getting the logo to mimic and still look right
Hmm.
off of the heavy metal, but that was a fun one. I enjoyed
Oh
that.
yeah, and that was another thing that I wanted to mention about your skill set. Graphic designer. You do
hmm
a lot of vinyl like I want to say it's like vinyl
Decals,
stickers, decals,
yeah,
stickers.
yep,
Yeah,
yep.
you do that as well. So it shows. It translates. Not only you're a phenomenal illustrator, but you have a good sense, a graphic design sense, and that this is another example of that. And we keep on going down here. Love all these compositions, just really cool. And then this, I have to say, shout out to another former guest that we had on the show, Marius Rianico.
I'm
And
glad you can pronounce his last name. I still can't. I was like,
and believe me, it took like hours of practice. It
I
took me
know.
quite a while to get it right. And then speaking of which, I got a comment in here. I'm going to pop this up right here. This is from Mr. Justin Acosta, who and he says, "Let's get it ready to see some killer art." And here we are, Justin.
Yep.
This was Justin had he's also a veteran of the show, and I believe you watched Justin and Marius when they were on the show, and you like recognized Marius's talent. Said, "I got to get Marius to do a cover for
Oh
Advent
yeah.
Dark."
And I've got 4 other thumbnails he had done that were. It was such a tough. He did quick
Oh,
little thumbnail sketches, and all 4 of them were absolutely fantastic. And like this is the one that I like begrudgingly chose because I wanted to choose all 4 of them, and I couldn't, obviously. But
oh,
he
maybe
just yeah.
for yeah, maybe for because maybe for a future publication because I know that
hmm
you were talking about doing a trade paperbacks and maybe there's some room for like a pinup gallery or like showing like a work
Oh,
in
there will
progress
be, yeah.
behind the scenes.
Yep,
But
I have
I
that.
just wanted to say this is a good thing about Comics Cast, and one of the things that I take great pleasure in knowing or doing is that I can not only can I get creators in front of our audience, get the word out about their creations, but it always warms my heart when I can get creators in touch with creators so that
Mhm.
they can create things like this. Amazing cover for an amazing IP. Um, so I want to like show some sequentials, some examples of some sequentials that are from issues 1, 2, and 3. Don't worry, Jared. I made sure that no spoilers here. I just want to like go through some of the really cool pages that you've done because you definitely have a good eye for composition. So I believe this is from issue 1,
Yep.
and we get to see Danny here.
That's our
And
first iteration there. It's the first time everyone
yeah,
gets to see her, and it
mhm,
is kind of amazing. I look back on issue 1 compared to issue 3, and the difference in like the art just
uh-huh.
evolving from even those 3 issues. Because
And
they're
it's a
spread out over time, so it's like as you've spread out, you start to change a little bit.
Yeah, and it's all like you said, it's an evolution. It's like you get to see her grow as a character. You get to see your art style grow too. So it's very complimenting in terms of that evolution. But I I I think we talked a little bit about this. You don't have a formal training in like color theory. This is like 100% like intuitive, right? I mean, when you
Well, to a
sort
degree.
of
I mean,
build these.
I
Yeah,
do. I study a lot of how people do things, but like
right.
with graphic design, with all the different design
Yeah.
aspects in general, you do learn what works with what can make something pop. You give it a little bit of that 3D jump.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's you're always learning. There's something I learned 5 years ago could have been replaced already by something else. It's just you're always evolving, you're always changing. Other people have neat little tricks that they learn, and then you
Uh-huh.
figure it out, and then you adapt it to your stuff. And yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think to me, it's when I, for you, it's like it's not like a formal training. You just have a keen sense of observation, and then you do the lettering for your book too, right?
yes,
Is that
yep,
all? I look at this too, and this is just a great example of like you're breaking, panel forms. You have obviously this really powerful like a lettering here with the growl here, but this is one of my favorite panels too, and you sort of have this inset also with a circular. So this is one of my favorite ones because it sort of epitomizes a lot of just your skill. And you got that brilliant fuchsia that's on the right, and then you have like these
yeah,
darker cool colors on the left, and it really frames and actually, like you were saying, making things jump off the page. And when you have here, we have the Skinwalker here himself, Wyatt, who becomes a bear, he can morph into a bear, and I just like how you built this particular page. Was you want to talk a little bit about this? I mean, was it just so natural to you that you did this, or was it a very like a deliberate thing? Like you were saying, I got to do this, I got to do that. What was
well,
your process
I
on this?
wanted them coming out a little ferocious, a little big. Like the guy basically, when the spirit takes over, it's just pure rage. Everything that's welled up inside, and it's amplified through that spirit, through the torturous bonding of it, and the red will simulate that blood rage, the just the pure, like the primal
Yeah.
feel of the entire thing, and an animal like that is just pure primal. So
Mhm.
to couple it with technology like that, it's just absolutely frightening entity.
Yeah, and I like it's sort of like you have those fuchsias and the reds, but you're talking about coupling that with that technology, and you have like these color motifs that you're setting up, and the technology is always going to be like this kind of like white with this incandescent like green that
It's
glows around
dead.
it.
Yeah, it has like a dead
Yes,
feel to it. Yes.
right, but
Yep.
it's a nice complement, to each other in terms of like the primal ferocity that you were talking about here, but you have the cool technology, and these are like themes that I've noticed that you've kind of used both, and I think Danny has a little bit of both. She can have that rage, but she has that cool technology, and then we're gonna also talk
Yeah.
about Bob, which I learned a
Mm.
little bit more from you yesterday.
Yeah.
Who's going to be one of our live draws for today. So hint, hint. But let's keep on going down here. I want to show a couple more sequentials here. Speaking of Bob, here's like this technology. So we'll learn a little bit more about Bob and what his character, or shall I say characters? We'll learn a little bit more about him. But yeah, this is the technology side of him. that was that white with the iridescent, neon green glow here.
Hmm.
So, um, and then here, another example, just like that previous page that I'd shown with Wyatt. Well, this is Wyatt as well, but it's a nice juxtaposition. We have here a very similar sequential, but still powerful. Here, and I
Right.
love your typography with your lettering here. Just you can feel the impact, and then of course you have this unconventional way of doing the panels, the last three panels there, which really just drives home like the action. So just really cool stuff. Do you want to talk a little bit about this in terms of how you compose this particular page?
Well, this is where I get to issue 3, and just the time in between, because you do everything, and you got a 9 to 5. It's by the time you get to a third issue. I mean, if you're really buckled down to it, yeah, you could burn through them, but you want to do it right. So from issue even 2 to 3, the way I colored, the way I decided to change backgrounds, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You get different brushes, you get different ways of doing things, and you start to see it even in issue 3 here, where
You
I've gotten a
start.
little more dynamic, maybe a little more of an effect in the background to give it more of a jump.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I
yeah, so,
noticed that you were talking about like it's like allowing you to experiment because you
hmm
do your work digitally, and I just noticed how you sort of like uh, when you see this impact of the wham, not only do you have your signature coloring style, but you have that neon green splatter effect
hmm
that actually just further accentuates the action that's happening here. Um, so are you actively trying to like figure out like brushes to like help you figure out how to express yourself like artistically, or
Oh yeah,
is it
there's
just like
always, because there's always improvement. There's always a way. It's like, how am I going to get it to look like this? How am I going to get it like that splatter? That's like probably 2 different brushes, maybe even 3, just
uh-huh.
to, and effects and everything, just to get that feel that there's energy, there's kinetic energy moving through there. How would the blood move?
Mm-hmm.
From left to right with that kind of force hitting her, and the fact that she's getting hit that hard and she's still standing is a testament to how strong she actually is.
Right.
So I don't believe that. And I think it falls back on the old Superman, like the Superboy Prime, where they kept writing Superman to the point he was so powerful, you never worried about him. You never thought, oh man, is he gonna make it through this issue? Is Metallo gonna take him out? No, you were like, oh, he'll be fine. My characters, I want them to be a little vulnerable. I don't want them to be stepped on either, but to a degree, I want you to look at that character and go, man, maybe do you want to go full Tarantino? Not necessarily, but I want the readers to look at it and be like, man, maybe he's not going to make it through this one.
Well, I think
So
that's the thing too about your writing and well, good characters in general, character development is that perfect characters, they're not interesting. You want to
right.
show like some vulnerabilities. They can be strong, but they have their own other weaknesses, which make them interesting characters and actually make them human. That's what allows us to relate to the hero, the heroine, and even like villains. We can see their perspective on things. Obviously, we don't condone like any of those, villainous behavior, but it's like what they say. It's like every villain is the hero in their own story. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Well,
so,
that in the
but
world isn't
yeah.
perfect. So I mean, when you have somebody a villain is a villain for a reason. They're doing terrible things to good people, or
Mhm.
just torturing or whatever else. It's like they're not going to be nice. They're not going to be cordial, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, did I hurt you? Here, let me help you up. No, no, that guy's going to stomp you into the pavement, and he's going to walk past you and keep doing what he was
Uh,
doing. And that's what makes a villain, and that's what makes, to a degree, a very interesting villain.
Yeah,
You-
that is so true. And speaking of powerful, I mean, we have this villain here, and I don't know. Is it a spoiler to talk a little bit about this villain with if people haven't bought issue 3, or should
no,
we
no, they're
should we like?
honestly, they've been stalking ever since issue 1. They're essentially a bounty hunter duo,
Okay.
and their whole point is they've been tracking a signal. Now, is it her? It seems they've zeroed in on the technology, they've zeroed in on the power source of hers. Whatever it is, it's still that whole what's going on, I can't quite tell you yet kind of thing. But
Yeah.
these two are a prelude to what else is coming, and what else is, what is her background, and why are these two centering in on her specific energy signature. There's a
Mhm.
whole other bit to that, but we start to open that up as we go. So
Yeah. So
Yeah.
no spoiler free. What is it? Talking points here, but you got
Just
to
a
get
couple of
you got
bounty
you,
hunters trying to
yeah,
collect
got
their
it.
bounty. Yep.
Right, got to get all 3 volumes, so that way you can, or 3 issues, so that way you can see who these bounties are, or see the setup, the story setup for who these bounty hunters are. But
Yep.
I gravitated to like we looked at the upper half of this, and it was already striking, but I really liked this lower half too, especially the way that you decided to use the 3 panels here, which are like coming at you. They're not
Yep.
like symmetrical. They're very 3 dimensional, and it's just yeah. I like your choice in terms of how you built this one, because it makes for an interesting page. I often say that comics are an unappreciated art form, because not only do you have to be adept at like just drawing, like let's say if you're a pinup artist, think of it how every panel is a pinup, and then you
Mm-hmm.
had to link all those panels to tell a story. And then when you can feel like you can break the typical 4 corner panel, and whether it's a rectangle or a square, or and then decide to like maybe do polygons or actually skew them like you've done here. Uh,
But
just
still, the
just
trick is to
really,
make sure it's
yeah,
readable. Like if I hand,
it
sometimes I'll
helps.
hand these pages to somebody with no lettering, and I'll
Uh-huh.
be like, "Do you know where this is going? Do you know which direction? Do you understand
Yes.
what's happening?" Like, yeah, absolutely. Okay, then I've done my job and I move on. But if you look at it and you're like, "I have no idea why is he over here, and then why is he back over here," that you have
Yes.
to left to right, even with just images,
Yes.
top to bottom, it has to flow properly. So,
And you're essentially, as a storyteller, you become a director. Like you're
hmm
directing
yeah,
the things, and that as an artist, as you're building all these panels, it's important until you actually try and do it yourself. I think that's why it's unappreciated. It's not as appreciated, I'm gonna put it that way. Until you try and build your own comic and tell a story and be very cognizant of like character placement. So like when there's a dialogue or even an action sequence, you have to be very aware of the positioning, so that it as a reader who's just looking at it and doesn't do comics, they're not going to appreciate it because it just makes sense. It flows. But then, of course, if you do it wrong, whether it's if it's a viewer who's a professional comic artist or just a casual, they're just a casual reader. They're gonna know. They're not gonna understand, or it's gonna feel weird. Like if you decided to do an action sequence and you just suddenly flip the character positioning without moving the camera. Like if the
hmm
camera had been moved to the other side, done a 180 and then was on the opposite side, you can kind of get it. But if it's just in the same camera position, but you put the characters in opposite areas, it's just it feels wrong. So
yeah,
I look at this and it's exactly what you said. A successful page, lettering is important. Making sure the dialogue and word balloons, they all help move the story forward. But if you were to remove that out of the page and just show the panels, it's exactly like you said. A reader should be able to deduce what's going on if there were no letters, because that's the power of telling a good sequential story.
yep.
Um, yeah, but I tell you, I love this, and this will be my last uh, sort of tease at what you can
Hmm.
expect from issue 3. And this is here, you broke the you it's like you broke some of the panels here with these teeth that are just coming over the last panel. Just really cool. You want
Even
to talk
by
about
the end
this?
of this book, even by the end of the book here, like I was getting down to the wire, and I
Mhm.
was trying to beat to get to Terrificon. I wanted to take this book along to Terrificon, or no, I'm sorry, I wanted to have the Kickstarter running by Terrificon. So Johnny and I were back and forth there for a while, and like it was real short on printing schedule. So, and I still managed to just change up the way I was coloring even here. I started doing the dividers, had some color added in. I broke out of some of the boxes, and
Yeah,
um, just to
it's
kind of
like you
make them pop up off the page a bit.
it's like you pushed it to the limit. It's almost like as you were, I think when you felt that rush to get it done, it's almost like you said, I'm gonna say
It was
like
a
you
little
got all Wyatt.
frantic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you turned into Wyatt and
Yeah.
just became a monster beast and just like created these pages, these last pages. But yeah, so if you like what you see here, and this is to our audience, if you like what you see here, the Kickstarter is over, but I believe Jared, are you going to open up like a general pre-order? Maybe that's so you obviously won't be able to get the Kickstarter or the crowdfunding exclusives, but are you going to allow people to like get like issues 1, 2, and 3, like, or at least do a pre-order? What are your
Oh
plans
yeah, well,
in
well,
terms of
there
that?
is the .com. There is a shop on the .com. There's
Hmm.
nothing for issue 3 yet because always
Yes.
everybody who came to the Kickstarter, they get special art.
Yes.
They've got little special goodies added in, so all of that gets taken care of first before anything else in a
Absolutely.
general sale. But there will be. I've got. I'll have them up on the shop there, and you can order a couple of the 4 different covers and whatnot. But
Right.
again, like all the extra stuff that won't be included with any of you. Just get the base issue and
Hmm. Well, I'm going to
yep,
say
yep.
that that's as it should be, because then I think
Right, right.
if you have a crowdfunder, you want to basically have exclusives that
Yeah, people came
show
for extra stuff and they showed the
yes,
appreciation. It's like absolutely. I
yeah,
always try. I always throw even stuff that I've told them. It's like here, you're getting this. I still even throw a few extra things in the box just because I'm
uh,
always like a very appreciative of people coming by and spending their hard-earned money on my book. It feels good. It feels that people are interested and
yeah.
want to see what's going on. They want to see where it's going. That means they've done a good job. So
And
yep,
that's the
absolutely.
beauty of being an indie creator and working at, I'm going to say, like the street level, where you're being able to interact with your backers, be able to give back and give them that special treatment that,
Hmm.
I don't think that you could get if you're going to buy a big company, book. You're not going to get those exclusives or that attention. Uh, and I have to say that showing this last panel, it really excites me to see like what you're doing, and how you're able to bring this level of creativity to the indie market. And yeah, congratulations again. That's
Thank
so
you.
awesome that
Thank
you
you.
were able to get your crowdfunding done.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I think this is. I'm gonna flip through a few other things before we get to our live drawing here. These are you are CEO of Dark Streams Studios.
Hmm.
This is like your company here, and so you, aside from Advent Dark, I see that you're a fan of Star Wars,
Oh
and
yeah.
and I
Yep.
love this. And these are things that we showed. These are newer art pieces, but we did show some of the other artwork from or when your last appearance back in
Hmm.
October. But here we have Darth Talon, um, and
Yeah. Eddie
I'm
Munson.
so bad that I have not watched the latest
Oh, you're
Stranger Things
missing
yet.
out. So good. So good.
Well, yeah. So I heard nothing but good things about it, and I know this is a character that was in the latest season
Most
of Stranger Things.
beloved Eddie Munson playing Master of Puppets. It was probably one of the best scenes that they had done for the show. It was, and people were going like through Terrificon. I had people like just snatching this up left and right. They just loved it, and
Yeah.
so many people dressed up like him, and just really on this guy here is like on cloud nine, just walking around right now. People just loving his character. So
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I've seen like so other people were so um impressed, moved, emotionally connected to this particular scene. I saw so many different fan arts, and this fan art, when I saw it, it's like it definitely. I haven't seen the show, but I recognize it, and
hmm
when I saw it, it's like this is uniquely Jared too, because this has your signature coloring technique
I should
that
see
you
it
were able to.
printed too. Like the prints all brought that out too. I was very
Oh,
happy
it
when I got
did.
those. Yep.
Oh,
Yeah. Sometimes you lose it in the print. Now the people I
they
go
nailed
to
it.
like they nail it every time. They're very good with it, and that print just came out beautiful. So
Yeah, and you said it sold out, right? When
yeah,
you
it
brought
did. I
this to
sold
Terrific
2
Con.
big posters, and then I had like 15, 20. Some of these 11 by 17s. They were all gone. So yep.
Yeah,
That's not bad for
striking.
an entire convention full of other great artists to sell
Uh,
that many. So yep.
yeah, I very impressed with this. It's and this is a little bit of a I guess like a hint of what we're going to be doing in the live drawing. We're doing things a little bit different for the live drawings that are going to be coming up here, and I'll like talk about that a little later here. But again, it's your colors. I can't get over your colors. They seem like they would glow in the dark. I
Well,
don't know if you
to
could.
be fair, this was actually a friend of mine, and
Uh-huh,
that's her actually. She has done paintings of her own, and this was her
uh-huh.
color scheme she had used for her. So I mimicked it and
Ah,
redid her in the painting that she had done of herself and another character. And
uh-huh.
but it was nice because it was still hand in hand in a lot of what I've been working in anyway. That's why I grabbed onto it so quick because it was just a gorgeous shot. So I really had fun with this one.
Yeah. gonna have
Yeah.
to meet your friend. Uh, but here we have again. This is like I love your style. It's really
Yeah.
cool to see a different. You don't do everything in dark neon colors. You do have light backgrounds that you definitely try and do as well.
I do need to work
Very
more muddled though. I really would like to, like like we talked about yesterday. I'd like to go that more magnolia route, the basic flat
ah
coloring. Just use
yeah.
your shadows and your muddled colors and just see what you can pop up. But
Hmm. Well, that's
yeah,
the further evolution of the artist that we're talking about. So we might be seeing a color shift there for some of Jared's future work. Is that he might experiment in some maybe some more flat colors. But you know what? You've mastered the neon style. So maybe the flat color thing would be kind of cool. I think it would just
yeah,
is a matter of what you're doing. I think whatever the subject matter is, you could figure out what the best color complement would be for the subject.
yeah.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Then we have here. This is
Just
something
a
that
little more
totally
humor. Yeah.
it blew my mind. I was looking at this and I was like, whoa, because we had the last time you were on the show, we had the Predator Wendy,
Hmm.
Wendy, the Wendy girl from Wendy's fast food restaurants, and you had done her in a Predator
Yeah.
face, and here we have Scooby Doo, and I
In
just
the
was like
thing.
looking
Yeah.
at this, yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because I saw a meme. Somebody had taken a picture of the base there from the movie, and they had the Scooby Gang like, let's go in and see what's going on. And I thought, well, that's really funny. I said because I just did this one, and I always
Mhm.
thought it'd be like let's go a little one step further, and Scoob's already been taken over, so why not?
I'm gonna like zoom in here too because uh, only you can bring like this kind of like humorous angle to something that's like cartoon like fun and it's like comedy horror but it's not like to the point where or comic horror or comic strip or cartoon horror but it's not like it's to the point where it's to me it's like super like gory or anything like that. It
Yeah,
almost it's like yeah, that is Scooby, and that is the
that's
the thing
yeah.
alien that's coming out of him. But it's I found it's humorous at the same time too, and I think it's maybe because I love the thing. I thought that was a great John Carpenter movie.
Oh yeah, the thing's
But to see
timeless. Yeah.
yeah to see like we have Shaggy as Kurt Douglas here, and you got Scoob in the background. Just really it's really cool. I just thought it was really neat that you could figure out a way to do this type of illustration. What was
Mhm.
your what was the? I mean, did somebody commission this, or was this something that
No,
you
just
you decided?
sometimes
Uh-huh.
you want to get away from the book. That's why I didn't have as much work this round, new regular stuff. If because I was working so much on the book, so once in a while I'd have to take a break, and I'm like, what would be funny? Like, what would be something I could just get done and get it, get it popped out. And I thought, what about Scooby Doo meeting the thing? Why not? He's like, always like Scooby Doo met the Munsters, or he met the Adams Family, or the
Uh-huh.
Globetrotters. It's like, well, why didn't he meet the thing? So, let's have some fun with
Well,
that.
I I think your humor. I find your humor to be uh, uh, compatible in terms of, I can see the humor in this. I feel like,
Yeah,
oh, I can definitely see this. I can relate to this. But it's all about the execution. I think you did that fusion of it was Advent Dark with Evil Dead, I believe, was like one of your
that
themes.
was that one. There's also very
Uh-huh.
popular. It was the homage there, and I put Danny in the
Uh-huh.
old poster, and like people
Yeah.
love that one too. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
But yeah, it's phenomenal artwork. I'm gonna talk about a little bit. I'm not going. This is the Advent Dark, I believe.
This is
This is
the
the
ash
cover
can.
to the ash can, but I believe
Yep.
I have this set up. Yeah, this is the ash can. Is this something that was like a one-off where if you didn't get the ash can, there's no chance of getting this, or is this on your shop? Is this something that people
No,
could
this one
get?
actually I had it included in the Kickstarter. Some people snatch it up, and like I said, sometimes things just show up in your box if you're not, you know, if you're not
That's one of those.
expecting it. So,
Yeah, one of those surprises here. And
yep,
here,
yep.
this is a. I wanted to show just a few pages here because I don't want to spoil it for anybody. Because especially if people would, if you want to buy it, or maybe it'll show up as a surprise if you're a backer. But
Hmm.
I also want to show this because we got to saw all those punchy, striking color compositions that you did. But this, I want to show this to our audience because this is Jared doing black and white, and you can see that it's just as effective in terms of his. He's just deftly skilled when it comes to just doing black and white as
I've had
well.
people tell me they'd like to see me do a whole thing in just black and white, and I'll tell you what, it
Mhm.
would be a lot less time consuming than doing all the color. That's for sure.
Well, if you got people that are asking for it, so maybe you should put that as like maybe a tier in one of your next Kickstarters, and then
Hmm.
this ash can, I'm gonna like just show a few pages from it, um,
That's a
to let
Kyle.
people.
That right there's a Kyle Witkoski. He's been my
Mhm,
steady uh, cover artist here. He comes in and does a variant every issue, and he just always
mhm.
knocks it out of the park. He does a great job, and he's just got that style that just everybody just snatches up. They love it.
And
Like, yeah.
it's deceptively simple looking, but
Hmm.
it's so nice in terms of his lines and how they just really flow
Yep.
easily, into each other. But yeah, I want to show this because yeah, obviously got like a shout out to Scranton. I think that
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think
Not
Scranton
far.
has a special meaning to you, being a PA relative. I mean, a not relative, a resident of
Right, right.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's not too
And
far.
I think you had a story to talk about this particular panel. Do you
Well,
want to like talk a
that's
little about this?
that right there. That's Mighty Max or Maximus. Up at the Comics on the Green. It's been my comic shop for years up in Scranton. There, they do a great job. And Dave and he runs a really great shop. A lot of people come in, love
Uh-huh.
going there, and that is one of his employees, Becky, and we're always back and forth giving each other a hard time. And I said, "Well, I'm going to put you into the book." She said, "Well, go right ahead." She usually takes little Max out for a walk in Scranton.
Uh-huh.
You might see him once in a while out walking around,
Uh-huh.
and I just had her run into a Bob while she was out on his little doo doo run there. So
Yeah. And I think that's funny is just like, when you can put people in your life, it's like, hey, you're the creator. So why not go ahead and put people that you know and that you meet? And here we have a Scranton celebrity here with Maximus. So
yep.
maybe you might be in Scranton walking down the streets and see Maximus. But I think it's really neat when you can find time to like work something into your book of people that matter to you. And
Yeah.
I think that this is really neat. In fact, we have somebody here. We have Molly Mock who said, it's inspiring. So she's really cool. She says,
Good. That's great.
I wonder what I could come up if I made my own comic books. And I think that's it. Is that
Yep.
Molly? You just got to put you just got to do it. It's one of those things is that often creators, you may have the best story in your head, the best illustration that you're composing, but until you put pen to paper,
Yeah.
it,
You're
it
never
just
gonna know.
stays. Yeah, you're never gonna know, and that's why I like doing the shows because the creators that I've had, Jared, he's done that. He's taking that step and he's sharing the thoughts and the creativity that have been dancing around in his head, and he's putting
Long
pen to
time.
paper.
Very long
That's right.
time. Yeah. A little too long. I don't want to age myself, but it's been a while. So
But yeah, so moving on. I don't want to show any more here because I want people to possibly buy the ash can or support Jared because you never know. Maybe he might throw in an ash can
but
there
to
with
point out too,
with.
the Ashcan is a link between issue. That was a time too, like between issue 2 and 3, there was a bit of a gap. Like I said, last year I
Yes.
got sick for a while. It took a while to. It really pushed me
Yes.
back on things. So
Uh huh.
2.5 was like a little something to bridge between 2 and 3 to get people. It's
Yeah.
only 12 pages. It's half the size of a regular book. I've got them printed on white, green, yellow, like the old ash cans from the '90s. Used to love
Uh
those.
huh.
Going to the shop. That's another guy, a local guy here, Rob. He's got the totally cool collectibles. He sells my book in the
Hmm.
shop. He's a super awesome guy, and we used to go to his shop when we were still riding bikes. And we would go in, and he'd have all that '90s stuff sitting. They'd have all those ash cans sitting on the checkout there area, and that's just to get people going. I mean, we had the original Wildcats in our hands,
Oh,
stuff like
that's
all that
gold.
stuff. Yeah,
That is gold.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Hellboy when
I.
it first came out was there. I mean, like that's where you were kind of juicing up on all this stuff, and I always loved the ash cans, and I wanted to make one of my own. So,
Mm.
yep.
Yeah, next time you do an ash can, you gotta like put all like those, make it purposely offset a little bit. Maybe put like
Yeah,
some copier smudges. Remember the
I
old
know
school
I made it too
copiers?
nice. I got to like crinkle them and stuff too, maybe, or get a
I
worse
know,
paper.
because then
Yeah,
it becomes authentic battle damage ash can. You could say
yeah,
that it was sitting on the edge of like of the cash the cashier checkout at your local comic shop
People
got a
just
little
kept
beat
opening
up.
it and reading it, putting
Yeah,
it
and
back,
reading
kind of
it.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe that's something that you kind of do and like make that fake crinkly
Fell
looking
on the
thing to it.
floor and put a boot print, like somebody stepped on it, but then they put it back
No
up
one's. How
on the
dare they?
counter.
That's sacrilege. You can't step on Jared Brown. You can't do that. But
Yeah.
yeah, Ashcan looks really good. So it shows that not you can do black and white artwork, or it always starts out black and white before it gets colors. But I wanted to like make sure that people saw that. So let's. You sent me this folder, which is called miscellaneous. Of course, it had the Advent Dark Ashcan in here, but there's a few other pieces that were in here as well. There's an example of a sequential page here,
Yep, yep.
which is from the Ashcan. And this is something that going back to the color works where you're a
Yeah.
beast at it. And I was like going, is this like a super, you called it the pumpkin version of Danny. And you said this was something you just did for fun, but
Yeah, it's
I
like
almost got like,
reskinned her basically. If you're playing a video game, you get a new
yes.
skin for your character. That's
Uh-huh.
basically it's a Halloween. You remember when the
Uh-huh.
X-Men used to do it? They dress up. They had Iceman as an actual snowman. Wolverine was a pirate. They just
Mm-hmm.
did different things for fun, and I thought it'd be really neat if her costume changed colors and she did a little Halloween theme for
Yeah.
her look that round. But yeah, a pumpkin
Again,
blaster.
as a creator, you can have all the fun you want. If you want to reskin your character to make her pumpkin themed, so be it. So cool. Now, this was another thing that I saw. It was really
And
cool.
again, yeah, Winnie the Pooh, Wyatt. Yeah.
Yes, because I actually did not correlate the Winnie the Pooh thing until you told me, and
Yeah.
you sent me this artwork. I used it for one of the banners to help promote the show, and I thought it was really cool. Yeah, and you said that he kind of has a Winnie the Pooh color to it, and once you
That's
told me that,
because
I couldn't unsee it.
well,
So
Winnie the
it
Pooh
was,
came out in public domain, and they were doing like that horror movie, and I said, "Well, heck, I could have used Winnie the Pooh this whole time. It's like I could have just colored in this, and been like absolutely more terrifying because now Pooh
yes.
looks like that." But yeah,
Oh,
just having a
yeah,
little fun.
that would have been fun, and maybe that can if you do Pumpkin Danny, then you can you have Winnie the Pooh Wyatt here,
Yeah, it's true.
Wyatt Wyatt the Pooh. He's Winnie the Pooh's older brother, and
Yeah.
he's a little bit more temperamental when you come between him and his honey, but I really thought this was just a striking illustration. Just overall, you're trying to capture, like you said, the ferocity of his character. You did that, and you didn't have to
Oh,
go
grizzly
overly
roaring
detailed.
is grizzlies
Yeah.
are absolutely terrifying. So if you've got one that's armored up and standing upright and
Yeah.
thinking, that's a whole nother level of
Hmm.
scared. So yeah, I didn't want to go to
Yeah.
werewolf. Everybody always does a werewolf, and I love a werewolf. I mean, I got a very soft spot for the werewolves, but it's like this round, I was like, you know what? I want something a little different. I want that character to be bigger than a werewolf. I want him to be more menacing, and I want him to be more just you don't know what he's going to do at any
Yeah.
given moment. That's that little bit of Hulk in him where
Mhm.
sometimes he's the hero, sometimes you're like, okay, come on, like calm down, come back over to our side, so
I have to say, it's like bears. At least your bear is like the tank of the natural world.
yep.
You don't want to be in that path of that tank. When he's coming at you. But yeah, it's sort of like when you called it like Winnie the Pooh, Wyatt here. I was like, I kind of chuckled, but I also like, wow, yeah, just absolute beast mode
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to it. Um, but right, so let's get to the live drawing. So we talked a little bit about Bob, and I'm gonna get your art cam up here in a moment. And but before we do that, uh, I wanted to like talk about we're doing things a little bit different for the live draw here. For me, it's still going to be the same. I'm going to be drawing along, but we're going to isolate the camera. Jared has actually prepared some loose outlines for this particular drawing for
Yep.
Bob, and he's going to talk a little bit about Bob. That way, he can move a little bit more faster in terms of being able to build his composition, because we're only going to have about 20 minutes here. But again, like with all of our guests, when we show the live drawing part of this, it's not about getting like that super finished polished piece, because what can you do in 20 minutes unless you're
Right. Yeah.
like super fast. It's more about seeing the magic happen. It's about seeing like the creative magic that each guest brings to the table when they're my guest here. So we're going to see like Jared do that with Bob, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about who Bob is, or who Bob who the Bobs are. I want to like say that
Yeah.
in a plural sense because there's a
Yeah.
much bigger
There are.
picture
There's
to this.
lots of them.
Yeah,
Yep.
there's lots of them. So let me set the timer. I'm going to set it up for 20 minutes. Let me get your art cam set up here. So hold on one moment. I'm going to
So
add
I
it
get
to the
20
screen.
minutes on Bob, huh?
Yeah, you got 20 minutes. And here we have a little bit of a rough. And I'm gonna isolate your screen so it fills the whole thing, and we can see you build off this particular illustration. You could talk a little bit about who Bob is, because I don't think Bob gets enough attention. Bob
Well, he
doesn't.
hasn't
So
he hasn't gotten
I
there
think,
yet. He's
yeah, he hasn't gotten
still,
there. Yeah.
yeah, he's that background character here, but
Yeah, and you're gonna talk about him. So I'm gonna set the clock 20 minutes. I'm gonna start it right now, and I'm gonna put the mic back in your hands, and you can tell us a little bit about Bob while you finish or render this illustration a little bit more. So the mic is in your hands. Go for it.
okay. So basically, the way it went with the entire base was, given their dangerous jobs, as it were, you had to come up with a workforce that was a little more, I guess you want to say, if you damage one, you weren't real worried about it. Somebody gets hurt, they got to go into the hospital, they're fixed up, whatever. These guys are, I don't want to say expendable, but they are fabricated in a sense. Everything in this universe so far it runs, if you notice, there's a power source, it's green. And that comes from Danny, because Danny generates this power source. It was part of the pod that showed up with her bits in it. And they've essentially reverse engineered what they had. So after a while, they figured out how to make basically a perishable workforce, as it were. If something happens, if there's an explosion, what an alien menace attacks, Bobs can go in, be the support, do the help, do the rubble cleanup, whatever you need them to do. If you've ever been a fan of Star Trek: The Next Generation and you've seen Data,
Mm-hmm.
these essentially are what they are. They're just synthetic, they're bio-organic batches. I call them Bobs, because I thought Bobs were funny, and I had to come up with something that kind of matched that. So what they do is they fabricate these Bobs. They run on a synthetic, power source that's basically derived from Danny's mechanics, I guess you go, or bio person, or DNA, I guess you go with that. And they fabricate them for different jobs. So this one here, I mean, the one I'm designing right now, or just did quick, I gave him a big mechanical arm. This one here could be anything from welding to, doing fine tuning on some of the machinery there in the hangars, stuff like that. I mean, if you look at his trading card, I've got a whole bunch of different versions of them hiding in the back. And the whole point of those cards was I based them off the Marvel Series 3. I always loved that one. It was like a little homage to that. I did 7 cards. And he was based more so on the Multiple Man. The Multiple Man always popped out. Jamie always popped out the same guy, though.
Mm-hmm.
And as cool as that was, you create yourself an army, it's kind of ho-hum. It's like, oh, there's a whole pile of him. I want something a little more. So each Bob is designed with a little different of a task. There's thinkers, there are mechanics. I said yesterday, there could be one that makes sandwiches, for God's sake. Like, he's just in the kitchen. He's got spatulas for hands. Like, who knows? Whatever you feel like writing at that point.
Chef Bob, right?
Yeah,
Chef
he's
Bob.
Chef Bob. He's got a microwave in his chest. Like, it's whatever works for the situation. But the neat thing about them is they all run off a central giant head, kind of like the
Yeah.
what do we call the Supreme Intelligence,
Supreme Intelligence, yes.
with a
Uh-huh.
little piece of Zordon from Power Rangers, maybe, or a little
Uh-huh.
piece of the Wizard of Oz, where he had the giant head and it ran the whole citadel. This one here is a shared consciousness where each Bob is the same guy, but his
Mm-hmm.
processes are so high that he can do multiple things. It's like you're talking to different people, but it is the same consciousness throughout the entire facility. If they're sent out on a mission, it's like quick communication back and forth. Hey, you know, we need something here. It's like, oh, I'm already on it because I'm 2 streets over working on it over there because I saw you needed it. So that makes for a very cool and dynamic build on what they are. And basically,
Yeah,
I've
and
got it.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
go
just
ahead.
want
Yep.
actually I don't want to I just want to I realized I jumped the gun here. We just jumped I was so excited to jump into the live drawing that I didn't actually share like some of the artwork that you had done of Bob. So I'm going to leave
Oh,
I'm going to have your you can keep on drawing and
yep.
keep on doing that. I'm just going to go ahead and let our audience see what Bob looks like. So let me put that back and I'm going to move this uh to the foreground. So keep on drawing. I'm just basically showing some stills that I had taken of Bob from like your comic as well as that trading card that you had mentioned. So here, for our audience, if you want to draw along with us, please do. Just let me know in the comment field. We are about 15. We've done about 5 minutes of this drawing so far, so you can still jump in and do that. Just let me know in the comment field if you're going to be drawing along, and then post it to our sister page, which is the art show on Facebook. And I will be more than happy to pull down that artwork and show that to Jared so he can check it out and we can
Oh,
appreciate
yeah, absolutely. I
fan
love
art,
seeing that stuff.
But here we have Bob. This is the trading card that he mentioned, and he mentioned that hive mind that or not the hive mind, but that big head in the background, which is the original Bob Prime, I guess I'm going to call it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, I
this
call him Bob Prime sometimes for
Bob
joke. Yeah.
Prime here. He's the if you look in this illustration, he is the figure that's there, or the head, the disembodied head there in the background in the upper right. And you can see that these are like the army of Bobs. The Bob Prime can make very mission specific copies. He mentioned Jamie Madrox from the Multiple Man from the X-Men. It's kind of like that, but he's like more like Data from Star Trek, where these are synthetics, and they have very mission specific goals. Like here we have in the background we have like the tank Bob, who's kind of like the Hulk character, who's hulking version of Bob in the upper left. Then we have like everything from like more scientist ones. There is no chef Bob in this
No, I didn't
picture,
draw Chef Bob in there. No, I
but he
did
could
not.
be coming soon. You might see that. But we have everything from like like this heavy like War Machine style Bob, and he has like complete with like shoulder cannons. We have like this character version of him that looks like almost like a Mandalorian slash Cobra Bat version of Bob. That's in the lower right hand corner. But Bob is pretty much the character that can be any character.
Yeah.
It's very mission specific. But here I'm going to show a couple of different versions of Bob that are actually lifted from the comic book. So you can have here. This is more of a teched out version. Uh,
Yep.
here,
Yep.
here we have one with like double arm blasters. We
Well,
have
that's the flamethrower Bob there.
yeah,
And it's
uh-huh,
you trying to make it where it looks like they kind of look normal, but then all of a sudden, like stuff like if they're not overly, if it's not overly apparent, you think he
uh-huh.
looks like a normal guy. Next thing you know, a blaster pops out of his chest. Yeah, just
Right.
things like that.
Uh-huh. And again, it's like here, it's like I like how you decide to really like put his face into shadow, but again, the technology part, his eyes and the glowing elements that are on his forehead, it's really cool. And of course, here we have Danny with Bob's in the background here. All right, so I know we did this a little bit in reverse, but here, if you want to do a screen capture, if you want to draw along with us, this is Bob. This is probably and this is Bob in his trade card format. So if you want to do a screen capture of this, and pretty much you can draw Bob with any type of like I said, mission specific appendages. He can do all sorts of things.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
like the basic Bob I call him right there. He's just the yeah.
uh,
I'm just walking around. I'm not doing much anything. I'm just here,
right.
Bob. So
All right. So let me put back your art cam to the forefront, and I'm gonna solo that out, and we're gonna get back to drawing. So here we go. So you can see that I'm gonna like put my head down so I don't see what you're doing. In fact, I'm so behind now. I got to get to drawing myself. But we had a little bit over 12. We have about 12 more minutes left in this, and of course we can, based on our guest, we could always add more time to it. But we'll see what happens at the end of 12 minutes. But I'm gonna put the mic back in your hands, Jared. And you talked a little bit about Bob's particular, him being like Data and him being fabricated based on certain missions based on the Bob Prime. Is there anything else you can kind of talk a little bit about, like without spoiling anything? So, like, is there going to be like maybe a Bob solo adventure, or what do you what's
well,
on the
funny
road for him?
funny thing is, and Johnny and I keep going back and forth. We want to do a one shot called Night of the Bobs, where a virus gets into the like I guess you call them. They're not really clone batches, but they're they're batches of the same bobs popping out. Well, something happens, we haven't quite decided yet, but basically they go kind of crazy and they go zombie like in the facility.
Hmm.
And we have the two mechanics, Squeak and Weave. They're like the two alien, I guess we call visitors. They've basically been here for years, and they end up going to the facility as well. And they're also like the big time mechanics for the aircraft and everything in the hangar. They were going to be the two main characters for that story that were basically running for their lives trying to get away from all these bloodthirsty bobs that are trying to get a hold of them. More of a comedy uh,
Uh-huh.
bit and everything, just having some fun with it, doing a little something different with the story. But yeah, that essentially was his idea. He really wanted to do that, so
So that's gonna happen. We're gonna see that zombie story that's gonna possibly come out.
that's the plan that we're working on. Yeah, we really would like to do a Night of the Bobs and have it where it looks like I would do the cover to look like the old Night of the Living Dead style thing, but it would be, or I had one sketched up where they're holding the door shut and all the zombie arms are trying to come through the door to get them. And it's just,
Oh,
yeah, just having a little fun with it, kind of thing. But yeah,
you have my wholehearted like endorsement of that. I think you should definitely do that. And you said it's like Night of the Living Bobs. Is that
yeah,
what you
it's
said?
like, yeah, Night of the Living Bob. So it's just,
Uh,
yeah, but it's just every little, because he also works on his Surrounded by Death book, which is a full fledged, zombie slash coffee slash in a mall kind of thing. So
uh-huh.
he's got a real love for anything that is zombie like. So for him, it'd be perfect for him to write it anyway because he's already knee deep in it as it is. So
Very
yeah,
cool. So you think that's going to be something that might come out in 2023, or maybe something at the end of the year? What is it?
won't be the end of the year. No, I doubt it. But we definitely have some plans for next year for stuff. So that would definitely be something of interest. And again, this is where I'm looking at outsourcing, I guess I would say, either coloring or I will have hire someone else to draw an entire one shot while I'm working on other stuff because I'd like the stuff to get done. I'd like to get it done sooner than later.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many great artists out there that I think could you get them to do it? Absolutely. So why not utilize those people and get them some work and
Yeah, and speaking of artists, I just want to like since this is great timing, you talking about like delegating and maybe coming out, getting other artists, that talented artists to help realize that vision that you have. We have Marius who popped in here,
did
and he
he?
said, "Salute, salute, 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 salute." So, so
Yes, he's
Marius,
a good time.
yeah.
He's a very good time.
Uh-huh.
Yep, yep. I always enjoy looking at his work. He's one of those. It's just wow.
Hmm.
Every time he's got something up, I'm very, very jealous and appreciative at the same time. So,
Hey, well, we all bring something to the table, and
yep,
I
yep,
think it's really cool that when like I said, when you can get um, fellow creators together so that they can create like those stories that it's all about putting a talent that you can believe in that would help you get your vision out there. And I think that getting you two together was like a match made in heaven there.
yep, yep, absolutely. Yep. And sometimes you do. You get people too that wonder. It's like, is this worthwhile? Is it worth your time? I've had these conversations where, do you really think you should be doing this? How long before you think you should stop doing it? And it's a very good question, but it's like, you know what? I don't think I could ever stop drawing.
Hmm.
I walk past a blank sheet of paper right away. It's like an impulse. You can't help yourself. You want to get in there. You want to create something, and I don't think that ever goes away.
Hmm.
But it's definitely a tough thing to make it your main job. It's a wish come true, but it's a tough wish to fulfill. It really
Hmm.
is. There's so many people out there, so many people doing so many different things, and can you compete? Can you pay your bills with it? And I hate to see people give up on stuff too. So it's like, if you love doing it and you can make a go of it and you can, then do it. Don't
Hmm.
listen to what other people are telling you. If you're having a good time, you know, just keep working.
Yeah, I mean, how many people? What is that saying? It's like, if you love what you're doing, I mean, if you're working at loving, if
You
it's
work at
something
what
that
you
you
love,
do,
you'll never work a day
yeah,
in your life. Yeah.
exactly. I can,
Yep.
for some reason, I'm like tripping over all my words here, but yeah, it's like if you love what you're doing, then it's not, it's not work. It's something
Yep.
that it's like you're getting, it's a bonus. You're getting paid to do the things that you love.
Oh yeah, if you could sit around all day and draw boobs and blast. I always say it's like the '90s. It's like it's big boobs, big guns, big shoulders, or pouches, whichever one you want to go with, because both work. But I mean, like
Uh-huh.
those guys in the '90s doing that. My God, that was their dream, and they did it. They were blowing stuff out of the water, and they were just enjoying life. And like, if you can get to that level, you know.
Yeah.
But who doesn't want to sit around and do that all day? I'd love to do that all day, but
Mhm.
it doesn't.
And I think that's what the um, indie creators are today. It's a return to kind of that love. I think that I'm not going to get all preachy here, but it seems like mainstream comics have kind of like gotten away from that. It's like there's all these ulterior things that are
Yep.
behind comics now. It's sort of like, let's just get back to the love of just, let's do the superhero comic without any like super
Yeah.
internal conflict or agenda.
And I always
It's
say,
just
like, nobody cares. You can make whatever you want. If you want to make a certain character, you go right ahead. No one's going to tell you. There was that story a bit ago where they said the comic shop owners are saying nobody wants a female superhero, nobody likes them. And you're just like, are you out of your mind? Like,
yeah.
people
That's
love women superheroes. Get out of here. Who said this?
yeah.
Who
I was
wrote
gonna
that
say I've
stupid
never heard
story?
that before. I've never
No,
heard that
it
before.
was like a big thing at the conventions. They were like, nobody wants to buy their books. No, that is an
That
absolute lie,
is.
and that is
Mhm.
ridiculous. People love all sorts
Uh-huh.
of characters. They really do. It's just paying the proper respect to those that came
That is it.
before, that have been here
Yeah.
forever. It's like Batman is a certain way. Treat
Mhm.
him as such. I mean, I know, I get it. They've been around for so long, and you're like, what can I do with him? What can I change up to keep? Because again, let's be honest. I mean, you're going to sell Batman before you sell Advent Dark, obviously. So, you're going to stick with that character no matter what. But at the same time, you're like, what can I do to keep this guy relevant, keep him going? And I understand people want to change ideas, they want new ideas. And I always say, well, that's where an Elseworlds comes in,
Mhm.
or somebody who is akin to Batman. He could be a sidekick, he could be somebody that Batman runs into, or maybe he's somebody who stole, a bat suit. Who knows? Whatever you want to do with it. But I always say source material is still around because it's good to begin with. It doesn't need to be messed with, but I understand where sometimes you got to shake the tree a little bit and get a
Mhm.
little creative, get outside the box, make a new interesting, or make the character a little different. But I would say within reason, you know. It's
Yeah, it's
otherwise
like
you lose them, and they're like, well, he doesn't exist, he's not real, who cares? It's like, well, then why am I reading it to begin with?
mhm.
I
Well,
I read them. You invest in these characters because you love them and
and
for
you
what
said
they
it.
are.
You said it, there was a key word that you said. It's respect. It's respect for where they came from. It's like you
Yeah,
don't throw everything that was ever about them in the garbage can just for the sake of you telling your version of that
yeah.
character.
And so
It's
many do it, and it's a pat on the back. I was like, look what I did to him. I'm like, congratulations, you've ruined him. It's like, why did you need to do that? Why didn't you make your own? Why didn't you make
that's
somebody
it.
new?
Exactly. I like
Yep.
what you said there too. It's no one's stopping you from creating your own character. You
And
don't
that's what I
need to.
want to see. I want to see somebody create a new character. I want you to go out and make that new
Yes.
person and make them fun, make them interesting. I want to pick up that book and be like, oh my God, I love, you know,
Hmm.
but
You don't need to
instead,
you don't need to destroy another character. It's like
exactly,
make your own version, or make not make your own version, make your own character, um and I
what
think
should be interesting, what,
that's what.
2030?
Yeah, yep, go
I
ahead.
was going to say 2030, Superman is up for, the original Superman is public domain.
Really?
Yep, that's what they're
Well, you know
talking.
what, it's the way that what is it, Discovery has been cleaning house.
That's a little scary.
It's I don't know, we can see. I don't really. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I hope it
Yeah,
doesn't happen like what happened with like Marvel in the 90s, when they ended up like selling like
yeah,
all those properties to like to Sony, and then we had that challenge that they had to go through with the
Yep.
MCU.
Yep.
Um, it'd be hard to imagine a world without a DC Comics, even though they've
And it would be
you know.
sad too. I mean, like, but sometimes I kind of wonder. It's like, would I like to see Batman kind of get down? Like, sometimes it's like Batman's a little too big. Like, I guess I want to say overly involved in the big stuff.
Mhm.
I mean, I get he's super smart, he's a good time, but sometimes like I'd rather just see him back to patrolling Gotham,
Yeah.
doing his thing, staying out of all the big mess, and
Mhm.
Superman coming to get him is like, hey, we need you to save the universe now. It's like I've got purse snatchers to get and stuff like that. It's like that's sometimes I think it's like let's just dial him back. He's a normal guy. I know he's super smart, but let's bring him back to basics and let him like uh when they opened up what do you call it? The Owls, Night of the Owls there.
Court of
That
the
first
Owls.
or the
Uh-huh.
Court of the Owls, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And Snyder had opened up and there's a guy pegged to the wall and Bullock's there and he's doing his thing, cop thing. Batman comes in. It felt like Seven. It wasn't
Uh-huh.
a super. I mean, he was dressed in a bat suit, but it was legit like it was him doing the whole detective thing. It was frightening
Hmm.
and it was scary. And that was so much fun to me. There wasn't a big alien invasion. There wasn't a ridiculous, like interdimensional weirdo coming in and trying to start. It was just like basic,
It
down to earth, like killer style.
Yeah, he was getting back to being the world's greatest detective. He wasn't
Exactly.
he and I think that got kind of lost too. I do appreciate that too. I think that was one of the things you mentioned that that whole thing about him being going back to the street level. Of course, I remember was it Alex Ross when he did Kingdom Come? Uh, Batman kind of became that. Of course, he became a little bit of a kind of like a Gotham City dictator because he's sort of like
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
but he patrolled just Gotham City. That was his thing. He had his bat drones just going around. He made sure that Gotham was secure. He didn't have to worry about all these world problem type
Well,
things.
what was that one? They had that book years ago. It was they literally took him back to basics. All he had was the rope with the batarang on the end of it,
Uh-huh.
and he didn't have all the fancy gadgets. They basically like dumbed him back down to like the original. He had little lock picks to get into places. He had a rope that he
Mm-hmm.
carried, and it was just him. If he met a bunch of punks, he beat them up with it. It was just fighting, just bare knuckle fighting. Like that was Batman,
Uh-huh.
and that was always neat. But you always kind of wonder, it's like how has nobody ever gotten his DNA and like recorded it? Bruce Wayne had to have donated blood at some point, and
Oh, see, you opened up a whole new can of worms there for an interesting story
yeah,
to have there.
it's
In
like why
terms
does
of
this
like,
Bruce Wayne's DNA match this crime scene DNA we found from Batman? Like things like that anymore, you kind of wonder,
Mhm.
but here we
Yeah.
are so
So if
far.
if if Jared were to write Batman, that would be a story that he would explore. So.
I like the whole Batman as the urban myth. Like nobody really knows; they're just scared to death of him.
Hmm.
This guy who breaks legs and arms and jaws because you were robbing some little old lady on the
Well,
street.
they kind of started that a little bit with the Affleck Batman. They made him more like criminals feared him. The idea of Batman.
That's what I love. I did love bits and pieces of the Justice League. Overall, it was all right, but they did it all wrong. If you watch the New 52 adaptation, that
Uh-huh.
was pretty much how they should have done it, where everybody kind of came together organically because of a big threat, and they all just sort of ran into one another. But
Uh-huh.
I love that opening scene when that crook comes out and there's Affleck just sitting against the wall over there, kind of blended in.
Yes.
That was a
Exactly.
terrifying scene if I was a guy robbing a place and there's this guy just sitting across from me waiting. Like that right there is the kind of Batman that I loved the Batfleck. I really did. I thought he did a great job. The warehouse fight was like the selling point for me. It was just,
Yes.
oh
Mhm.
man, like that was so much fun to watch him just beat the
I
living
mean,
hell out of those guys.
I was cringing, like just
Yep.
seeing
He
them get. I,
literally is
I, I
shot in the
felt
head
bad.
at one point. I mean,
I know he got stabbed. He got
yeah,
shot in the head, and
and that's exactly how he
and
comes home. Alfred fixes him
yeah.
up. He's got knife wounds. He's stitched all over the place, bruised up. He's back
Mhm.
out the next night. I mean, that that's Batman, and that's a
Yeah.
real good time.
Oop! I just realized I let the clock expire. You want to like maybe put 5 more minutes into this, and then
Yeah, I mean,
we'll look at it.
I mean,
Okay.
there he is so far. There, I've actually
Oh, that looks
not
so
too
cool.
shabby. Yeah,
All right,
he's a
let's put 5 more minutes into it, and then
okay.
we'll. And I try not to look at my guest artwork until they're done, but I
Mm-hmm.
kind of like cheated a little bit, so we'll stop in 5 minutes, and that way I can do the full gander at what you're doing.
And Marius is watching me right now. As I'm using just the plain. I mean, there are different. Where's this one here? I was using this one for a while. This was the. This is more of a pencil, but that was my sketching brush there. So I wanted to go with the harder brush to get. This is like I guess you would call it the inking because we had talked about that yesterday too with the inking aspect of it. And this is pretty much it. I mean, I used to draw by hand, then I'd marker it, then I'd scan it in, then you'd try sit there and try to clean up every little piece. And it's like after doing that for so long, you're like, this is killing time. I don't have time to, so everything is either I sketch it out in paper, scan it in, or like I did here with the pink, I sketched all this out and then you just work over top of it. Normally I have it separated, but for some reason I started on my pink side, but I can get rid of it. But I mean, there's multiple layers. You can some of my covers or some of the more involved pages. I can have upwards of 30 some layers. All the little neat things I've added to it, stuff like that. So I mean, if I really get into an illustration, there's a lot going on in each of
Well, it's
these.
all about you being trying to find an efficient way to get
Yeah,
your vision out there, right? So
yeah. Well, again, it's time. It's you're working 9 to 5. I mean, bless these artists who have families and kids. I mean, I don't have any of that, so I don't know how they man. I mean, some of them, the guy's sitting there working, the wife is keeping the kids out of the studio while he's working because they can't be in there messing around all the time. It's like bless her, bless them for
uh-huh.
doing that kind of running that kind of interference so dad can get his work done he's got to get these pages out by the end of the week and can't have the kids in there playing horns and drums and everything else. So
uh,
yeah, it's rough.
got
But
to do what you got to do here. So
yeah.
I know we got like just a little bit over 2.5 minutes. So if you're in the audience and you're watching us and you decide that you want to draw along, please do let us know in the comment field that you're doing that, and then post it to our, like I said, our sister page, which is the Art Show on Facebook. And I'll be more than happy to share that with Jared, and he can give you some feedback.
Yeah. I multiply my time. Yep. I'm not sure where else I want to go with him yet here.
So speaking, let's talk a little bit in this last 2 minutes about Bob himself. Is there like a limit to the number of duplicates that he can make? Is he?
It's funny. I don't know. I guess there would be an upper limit of computing power because the big head would have to. That's a lot of processes to be running all at once.
Uh-huh.
So it is a very interesting thought. Like, what is the upper limit on the Bob manufacturing, and if each one is doing a different job.
Yo, yeah, yeah.
Maybe I could write that in later, where once they're created, even though they're running on a specific, like the one mind, the actual bodies run on a separate process that kind of that's automated inside that particular body.
Mm-hmm.
So the big brain doesn't need to worry about how that's going. It's almost like a secondary little brain inside the body.
Mm-hmm. And Bob is pretty much immortal too, right? I mean, because
Yeah,
like
I guess.
his iterations of him can get like killed or destroyed, but as long as the Bob Prime is still going, it's like
Yeah,
he can keep on like reproducing, right?
and that's why I said yesterday we were talking about these, like in Predator, when Predator dies, and the Wayland Yutani, they get a hold of a piece of the tech and they reverse engineer, and all hell breaks loose. With these, if you disable a Bob to a degree where it can't get up and walk away, they can self destruct, they will melt, like basically they'll just dissolve
Mm-hmm.
because they're nanotech. So the nanotechs will just be, it's a nano death. So the whole group of them will just turn into a puddle of mush and disappear, kind of thing. Like you're not going to steal that arm and take it back to your lab and Tony Stark it up, and there'll be none of that. So
There won't be any of that Batman moment where people will analyze a fallen Bob and be able.
exactly, they don't get Batman's batarang and reverse. No, nope. Bob's go. Bobs don't. So
All right, so we reached our last extra 5 minutes here. So let me take a gander at what you did. I was already like super in awe of what you had showed me, or what I had glanced at earlier, and I'm even more so now here. Can we zoom in a little bit? Because
yeah,
I love what you did with that arm. That's like a version of him that I've not seen.
yeah. Well, that's the
And
fun part. You can draw them whatever you want.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
So like this version of Bob, like how do you see, like what mission would this Bob be like?
I'm not right. You know what he might be? He might be a specimen. He might be a specimen retrieval, which would give
Uh-huh.
him the extra long arm. He's got the claws. It
Ah,
looks a little
yeah.
more looks a little more durable. So if he's got to pick up eggs, if he's got to pick up a squirmy little slug creature that secretes acid, that would be the Bob I would send in.
Uh-huh.
That would have, maybe a little more protective armoring, whichever. I don't know what was this going to be. I have no idea, but it was becoming something, and then I just sort of stopped, and I'm like, I don't know, you're big key hand, so that's what you get now.
Yeah, it looks.
But
I love all the mechanical details that you put into it. I mean, that arm. It actually reminds me of, which is kind of like what I was in it when we show my illustration. It reminds me of like a. Do you remember? It's kind of like a fusion of like a Metroid arm with like. Remember Super Patriot from
yeah, yep.
Image Days? I think it was Dave Johnson. I think that's who did it. But I loved how he did like Super Patriot's like arms, and like because they could turn into like any number of different weapons. But what I liked about yours too is that you made it almost like steampunkish with those
Yeah.
cylinders that are like on his shoulder. It's like maybe when he collects specimens, he has like syringes in his fingers, and they would like like he could extract fluids, and then they would fill up in these tubes on his arms.
Yeah,
But
it's a collector, or it's something to knock it out. So he picks it up and it stabs it and puts it to sleep. It's like neat little, yeah. That's what's fun about these. You can just, it's like here's basic Bob, and he's going to be a steel worker. Go, or he's a zoo handler, or he's a heavy duty space exploration Bob. So like I had one designed where it basically was like this monster body and a big bubble, and then this tiny little. I always try to keep the general shape of the head and the same size of the head. I don't like to make a giant Bob head. So he's always got a normal human head, but the bodies can be crazy. So here's the giant bubble body with the big armor and the giant arms, and the little tiny Bob head like floating in the middle. Yeah,
that's true, and I think that's Bob for you. He can.
He's
he
got
can
his
do like
goggles or an iteration of his goggles. He's got the 3 dots on his forehead, which kind of it kind of symbolize like one's bigger, which symbolizes the big head, and then the 2 little ones are like the branch off of. Yeah, so there's always a few similarities that it's a Bob, but they can look very, very different. So
yeah. Well, I'm gonna pop up some comments here that we had some people like commenting while we were drawing. We had Len saying here, it sounds like a fun book to draw Night of the Bobs. That goes back to that conversation that we talked about before. Thanks, Len, for watching. Len is actually another guy that was on the show. So we have another former guest of Let It Out who's actually watching the show. So very, very cool. Got Saeed, who's a aspiring writer from the Middle East.
Cool.
But yeah, he's in here. He says, nice. Len chimed in again and he said, thought my name thought my name in that. I don't, maybe, in the hat. So maybe he can help collaborate with you. I think that's what Len is.
Oh, throw my name in the hat. Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to have to probably put you 2 together. Maybe it's always good to see creators, come together, and maybe he can do a version of Bob that you've never seen.
Well, it's pretty cool. I did have somebody do that where they messaged me and they said, do you need a cover artist? I'm available. And that right there feels really cool when somebody comes to you and says, hey, I'd like to be part of this. Like that's even more exciting. Yeah, that's super exciting.
That. It's one thing for somebody to fan art your stuff, but when somebody says, they were so moved by what you did that they want to collaborate with you or like lend their talents to your IP. That's incredible.
Yes. Yep. It's very flattering.
Marius is on here. He says he's loving the clean lines even without the smoothing turned on. So
He's always poking. Yeah.
it's like there's a smoothing option. I didn't know that because all my lines look wonky and like like what do they call it? All my lines look.
Well, it all depends.
Look,
I mean, there's up here in the this guy right here is my little. I turn that on and you get a much like if that's on, you get that. But if you turn it off, you get that. So you see that difference? Like I told that to Kyle the one day. He was like, "Oh my god!" He goes,
it was like mind blown. I didn't know.
Yeah, he was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'm gonna do this now." So that was pretty fun. Yeah.
And then we also have another creator here who is Mr. David Whalen of Correct Handed Comics chiming in here. It says, I think he means you multiply your time, not divide it, right? So yeah, so I think he was referring in terms of like being able to delegate or being able to figure out if you do things digitally, you don't have to redraw it. You don't have to like draw it with a pencil, scan it in, and then redraw.
I mean, original art's great to sell and like have and everything, but at the same time, it's like, man, I can't just sit here and like I can't draw it all, then scan it, then redraw it. It's like just jump out a window. So.
Well, it's all like you said. It's all about figuring out the best efficient way to do your drawings and your illustrations because you got a book to put out. Let me go to our art show page and see if anybody drew along with us.
Yeah, I'd like to see somebody. I was hoping they did. It'd be fun.
Yeah, me too. I was hoping. Let me see. So while I'm doing that, feel free to keep on plugging away on your drawing, and that way we can see if it gets to.
Yeah, I'd like to see if I can get him to I can't believe I drew on the pink bot. But
unfortunately, I don't think anybody drew along with us for this particular. Come on, Marius. Come on, David.
I know Marius he's just sitting around. He's got nothing to do.
Well, in Marius's defense, he's on the other side of the planet. It's like
I know. I was picking on him by now.
2:30 in the morning. So I really appreciate that he's on here. For that. Oh, now you turned off the red lines. It's nice.
Well, I was able to get rid of it. Yeah, I was like stupid, and I actually drew on them. But to a degree, I can wash it back out. And now it's if you wanted to come back through and
looks so cool. So before we go to our next drawing, channel or live drawing, let me just show you mine real quick. And I'm kind of embarrassed because I saw yours, and I'm like, man, mine sucks.
You usually can. I love looking at all your stuff. You've got a very your stuff has a lot of energy through it. There's a lot of I want to say scribbling, but it's a lot.
It is scribbling. Go ahead and say it. It's scribbling.
But it's very fun. Yeah.
I gotta learn how to be more polished like you and Marius. But here is my quick rendition of Bob. Let me add this to the screen. Actually, let me minimize this first.
So nice.
I decided to do the aside from the Super Patriot arm you have here on the side, I tried to give him remember when Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld in the 90s, whenever they would draw a high-tech headset, they had these they would have all these weird looking antenna sticking out of it with a mouthpiece,
Who's that guy from Spawn, the big blue cyborg? I mean, what was his name? He had that Overkill.
Overkill, yes.
Yeah, he had the eyepiece, and he had those off his head as well. It was just that style at the time.
It's true, and I it's funny because now when we think of headsets, they get small. In fact, I'm using that right now. I'm just using it's just the earpiece, like a hearing aid. You stick it in your ear, and you.
I should do that. I got the big bulk, but I like the big bulky headset too at the same time. So it's
awesome. It looks like you could be a professional gamer too. Aside from doing illustrations, you had the headset where you could go into, or you could be a helicopter pilot. It all
really
works out the same way. But
that'd be fun.
But anyway, I had fun drawing Bob. It was nice to see or to hear about what is in store for Bob. Looking forward to hearing about or seeing a Night of the Living Bobs, and seeing about when nanotechnology goes awry. And you have to have those alien mechanics come in and save the day. Forgot what their name.
Yeah, those two are the and the one's based on my writer as well. So he's designed on him. He's based on him. The same sense of humor. And then you get the goofy little bug. The bug
it's
one.
Johnny C as a mechanic. Is that what it is?
Yeah, he's the real big one there. He's the big weef they call him. He's he
Uh-huh.
looks like a basically like a big alien looking armadillo body kind of. It's very cool. I enjoy his design a lot. He's a
Mhm.
lot of fun. And you get the little bug guy, which is kind of funny. I designed the bug guy, had him speaking a certain way, and they just came out with the newest season of Young Justice,
Uh-huh.
and they put the bug guy in it.
You're talking
And he
about Blue Beetle, like a
no, not
Blue
Blue
Beetle?
Beetle.
Oh,
He was an
oh, an
actual bug,
alien.
an
An
alien bug,
bug. Yeah.
and it kind of talked the same way. And I'm like, man. So
I
it's
think
like,
that
yeah,
this is funny. So Young Justice DC, they bugged your studio to
yeah,
create a
right, yeah,
bug in
yeah.
Young Justice.
So
You better sweep your room for those
well, it's even funnier. The Blue Beetle, like the way his the weapons and everything come out of him. That's what I was doing with Danny as well.
Oh, okay.
Originally, it was a guy. It was Knight. NYTE was the original book from back in the day,
Mhm.
and he was the same idea. He had the mechanical pieces on him. His body would change. He'd create more of the blasters and stuff off of what he had. But
Right.
when I saw that on Blue Beetle, I'm like, come on! And like, you got,
I know.
it's like
It's
I get
like
it's not like I'm not reinventing the wheel, but come on.
I know it's so funny like that. But anyway,
Yeah,
it's like that's why we're getting it. We're you're on a show, so we're showing your ideas. So there's now
hmm,
going to be visual proof to any of
that's
your
right.
ideas here on here.
Yep.
So as we go into our second live draw, we're going to be doing Danny, which is the main character for Advent Dark. So I
Yep.
put together a little PDF show here that we're going to let our audience know a little bit about Danny. And while we're live drawing Danny, I'll let Jared talk about her background, her story thus far without any spoilers, you know, her superpowers, etc. But I just want to show this artwork again to, as I want our audience, please, David Whalen, Marius, Len, if you're there, Saeed, maybe you want to take a chance at drawing. I know you're a writer, but if you want to come here, Molly, all anybody who's watching, if you would like to draw along with us, please do.
Yeah.
This is Danny. And I got serious, like Ghost in the Shell vibes when I saw this. Except, you know, Masamune Shiro never did it in neon green, and I have to say
Yeah.
that is this is the signature coloring style for Jared.
Hmm.
Love this illustration. This is one of the art pieces that I use in our banners to promote, you know, your appearance. Um, these are also some other illustrations from some of the covers that past covers of Advent Dark featuring Danny, and that's that crazy arm cannon. And
Yep.
here she is with Wyatt, and I always thought this was like it's like they're posing for a, you know, they're posing for a picture, and this is Wyatt's attempt at smiling.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even though he's smiling, he still looks like a beast. You know, he's just gonna like rip your. He's gonna smile and he's gonna rip your head off at the same time. But
Yeah, that's
I
another cover. Absolutely, I love that one too. That was a good
yeah.
time. Like I've had all my covers are really good. Anyone who's come on and this was Chris Matt. I've had Matt Flint, Joe Holly. Like Joe Holly's another one. He's got a very it's a it's Joe when Joe's drawing. It's very apparent.
Right.
So I mean, everyone's got another Kyle there. Everybody's got a great. There's Matt.
And, mm-hmm.
And Matt was actually the first person to ever draw someone else at the Saratoga show. She was someone that comes in, gets a lot of commissions done. And in congratulating me on my first issue, she commissioned Matt to do a picture, and he was the first one to ever draw her. And it was really like that's when it was like really exciting to see somebody else
Mm-hmm.
doing the character.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's always fun.
I think that's it's almost like I don't know, I haven't been in your shoes, but it's sort of like when you've created a character and somebody else can do an interpretation of that character. It's almost like you feel like a proud parent.
Yeah.
It's like that's my girl. My girl's being, you know, is being drawn by another talented artist, and you feel like it's like a level of achievement that I think that if I was ever in your shoes to be able to have that experience, you know, that's got to be quite rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yes, it is. It's yeah. That was my first cover. I'll tell you what, I have probably 7 other versions of that cover that I've never shown anybody. Like I've got stuff
ooh,
tucked away because they're just either awful or they're unfinished or they were ideas, and because
well,
it's your first issue, you were so nervous. It's like I want this to go out. I want it to look good. It's like what
yes.
am I doing here?
Well, you
So
know what? I'm going to encourage you. I mean, because like me, it's like I end up anything I don't like. At least early when I was started drawing, is I would just didn't like it. It ended up in the circular file. It ended up being thrown away, and I so wish, even if it was something that I didn't like, is this? I wish that I had kept it because it shows your journey. It shows all the different iterations before you got to the final version of Danny. And I think that you had mentioned in our pre-show that you're going to be doing a collect. You're doing story arcs. And when you
yeah,
do a trade where you collect your first 4 issues, I would encourage you put those
oh,
if
yeah,
you feel
there's
good, put
yeah,
them in the book. Because you can kind of see that creative process. I love seeing the behind the scenes stuff. I love seeing the thought processes before it became the final design,
yeah.
and I like all these things. And this is another really striking dynamic illustration here of Danny. But I want everybody to encourage everybody who's watching to like draw along with us because this character is quite awesome in terms of her design, and we're going to learn a little bit more about her. So I'm going to flash through these one more time. And something that's signature about her is like she has like this like technology that's on her hand, and that allows her to form weapons. Right? Is that? I
That
think.
yeah, that's the whole. I mean, originally, it was in the original story, the character, the power was a little out of control,
Uh-huh.
and they implanted that in her at a young age, or at the time it was the guy in a young age to kind of regulate it. And as
Right.
she grew, more was added in. Then it became training with it, learning to shape it into different things. Blasters. Like I've toyed with the idea: can she make a helmet like Cyclops? I mean, and
Yeah.
blast it out of her eyes. I mean, I don't. It's
Ooh,
however you feel like writing it, but
I would
yeah,
love to see that. Being a Cyclops fan, merging
mm-hmm,
a Cyclops like visor on your IP or your OC, I think that would
yep,
be really cool.
yep.
But part of her look though is also her striking eyes with um those lines that come down her forehead
As
and
I might have
past her eyes.
stole a little bit from Gambit because Gambit always I loved Gambit's eyes where he had the black pupil or the black
Oh,
instead of
yeah,
white, but
I
he had
never
pink.
saw it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I never
but
saw that
it's.
as a Gambit
I mean,
thing.
I've
I
seen
mean,
other characters with it as well, but I've always
yeah,
liked that. I didn't want to just do like straight up glowing eyes. I wanted something a little different. So I want them
right.
to pierce. If it ever translated over into live action or a cartoon, like
Uh-huh.
you want that to be that piercing look effect when they do it on screen. Like it would just be so cool.
Right.
So
Well, you pull it off already with this, so I think, and I never would have equated the Gambit until you told me, but I still
oh,
think
now
this
I've
is.
ruined it. Now everyone's gonna see
Well,
that.
no,
Yep,
I'm just
yep.
saying this is still. I still look at Danny as being Danny and not Danny with Gambit's eyes. So,
Yeah.
but okay, so here I want anybody who wants to draw along with us. I'm gonna put this here. You can screen capture this. So wait a few seconds for that, and then one with let's get this one, which is more of a full body shot
Yeah.
so you can kind of get an idea of her
And
costume
you can see
details.
too, even with her coat, like, and this is what I like about the character. Like, there, the coat's short. The one I've
Mm-hmm.
done is long. Like, sometimes the coat, depending on her
Mm-hmm.
mood,
Yeah,
she changes the
yeah,
length of the coat. She changes a little bit of the design. It's
mm-hmm.
kind of based on I guess you'd say almost like a denim jacket kind of thing. But sometimes she feels like wearing a long coat, depending where it's whatever you feel like designing at that moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, I
So
like this hexagonal. Like I don't know, I mispronounced that, but I like the texture, like in her costume too. I think that's really neat
yeah, I
as
know some
well.
people have cursed it though because they have to draw those. At me, I
I
cheat. I have
know.
like I have a texture I just keep on file, and I'll sometimes warp it to kind of go with the curves
Oh,
and everything.
shh.
But
That's
yeah,
you don't, Jared. You don't need to let that secret out. You
oh, I'm
you
sorry.
actually you actually hand draw all those every shape.
Yes, every
That's
single shape, all of
okay.
them. Yep.
All right. So with that being said, let's get your Arcam back up here. So let me and it looks like I've am I can you add your Arcam back? It seems like I lost it.
Oh, yes, we let's see here. Hold on.
Yeah.
Now it says stop sharing. Let me reshare once here.
Okay. There you. And once we get your Arcam up here, we'll set the timer at 20 minutes, and we're going to be drawing Danny. There it is. I see it.
There we go.
All right. All right. Okay. So this is something we're gonna do a little different. At least I'm still gonna be drawing, but this is the treat that I was talking about earlier. Um, we get to see Jared actually put some of his signature coloring. He's into this illustration. He's already put like the flats down, and
Yep.
I'd like for him to talk like talk through his process about what he's doing, and then he can spice in some little details about Danny while he's doing that. But I'm going to isolate your screen so it's full screen, and put the mic back in your hands. And let's hear a little bit about your coloring processes as well as learning a little bit about Danny. And the clock is starting now.
Okay. Well, to be honest, blending everything has always been a little bit more of a little bit of a weaker point with the digital. I mean, I've talked to a few colorists, and I've even gotten one of their brushes, which was really helpful. It was absolutely fantastic that they gave it up, but a lot of blending always kind of became more of a problem. So what I ended up doing was I got into more of the cell shading, kind of
Mm-hmm.
like what they do the anime stuff, anything with a basic, not too much texture, not too much going on. And I started playing with that, and then started kind of mixing it in with everything else. So what I ended up doing was I take a section. This isn't going to be a perfect line because we're time here. So, but I'd take a layer, knock down medium black, 35%. Take black, and then you just start working your way into stuff. You start getting shades, you start getting shadows. You pick your light source. So, mine will be on the right hand side, and then you just start messing around with it until you get what you want. And you already start to see an effect starting with the depth
Oh yeah, see that.
on the yeah.
And it's just
So
just some
it's
just some simple things that you did, and already it looks so much more
yeah,
three dimensional.
yep. So it starts. It helps on time, helps on everything else. Just a lot of time I'll just take an entire section, but then you subtract some out of it, you add some to it, whatever you can do to get your little effects to work. Fill in. There's the hair. So it's just fun little tricks, and these are things that I've learned. You see what other people are doing, and it's like, hey, that's a not bad idea. But it's like I like what he did, but I kind of want to add to it, or I want to take a little something away from it, but add my own little twist. And then that's what you end up doing, and you find your own way of doing it, I guess. And then somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, how'd you do this?" And I tell them, and it's like, "Well, I really like that, but what if I and they're saying that to themselves, like, what if I do this? It's like, hey, that turned out really awesome. Nice job.
Uh,
So,
I figured your default response would be like magic. That's what
yes,
it is.
it's always
It's
magic.
magic.
I can't tell you everything. I can't show you, some artists, they hide their brush presets. They don't show any. I mean, I've got, you don't see mine, but I
Yeah.
mean, because you can't give away all the magic. Because at the end of the day, you want everyone to succeed, but you are still on some level competition. And it's like, I want, come over and buy my book. Love my stuff. Yeah, sure, his stuff's good, but come over and look at mine.
You're like Houdini. You can't give away
Yeah,
all your secrets,
that's
right?
right, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, we'll go down to about here. Get some arcs.
So while you're doing some of these coloring techniques, and you can always go back to them, but I just want to know a little bit about your about Danny, about what was your original inspiration, or what drove you to create her look? Was there something
Well, it was
that?
honestly, it was the boom in the '90s, of course. Jim Lee coming out, the X-Men, all that. But it wasn't until the jump to Image and they started doing Pitt. Pitt was a huge, like, Dale Keown, like, oh my god, Pitt was just
Mhm.
absolutely insane. Then you had Gen 13 was another one that was really big, and Gen 13 was a big, between Pitt, Gen 13, and Cyberforce. Those three were huge influences on how I wanted to do my book, how I wanted to do my characters, and at that time, and believe it or not, Disney's Gargoyles, like, that show was just a way ahead of its time. It had great design work, it had great characters, great stories, and the design of my original character had a lot of gargoyle in him. He
Hmm.
had the clawed hands. He had the that's where the gray skin still comes from. It's from Goliath because that guy was he had the glowing eyes like Goliath. Like there was a lot of stuff at that time. At that age, you're highly influenced. You're taking stuff from it, and some of it has carried over since then. You've obviously changed it up a bit, but yeah, the '90s
That was the
and
thing, right? Hmm.
yeah, and like currently right now, I guess DC's doing a big thing where they're bringing back a lot of the '90s artists to do covers. And it's like their newest ploy or something to get people back into buying their books or whatever it is. But at the same time, that is pretty exciting because they recognize that that time period was kind of like a little renaissance. You could see it starting in the late '80s with Jim Lee, Silvestri, Liefeld. All those guys were doing certain looks. They were changing stuff up. Like McFarlane came in. They I think it was it him that added the black to the Spider-Man costume?
Uh, I know that he did
He
something with the webs, and he
he did the
also wanted
webbing.
to make Spider-Man more arachnid. It's like he basically broke Spider-Man's back. Like he could do like
Yeah.
poses that no one had ever thought Spider-Man could do, and I think that was the signature style. It's like he basically, it's like Marvel would say, "You can't do that," and he said, "Why not?" And then the
Yeah.
next thing you know, that's like the iconic black suit Spider-Man that we all know and love.
Yeah, because they said to me, I go, like, at first, I remember watching an interview. I don't remember who they were talking to, but he said, like, when McFarlane came in, it was like, you can't draw his webs like that. He goes, well, I'm going to do it. And then later on, they would tell other people coming in, they go, you need to draw the webs just like McFarlane did it. It's like he has, they have to look like that now because that is how everyone loved it. That's how we're doing Spider Man. And that's what was kind of cool about all that. They basically
Trendsetters.
had, yeah, they were trendsetters. They had created a new renaissance on comics. It was like, wow, these aren't just funny books. These aren't just for kids anymore. Like there are
Mhm.
adult collectors here grabbing this stuff. It's an art form. I mean, people used to make fun of them. It's like, oh, you read comics. It's like, man, have you read any of these? No. I said, well, then what are
Well,
you laughing about?
yeah,
It's
don't
like,
hate until you've like looked at it and
yeah, some
mhm,
of these stories, and now like these IPs are being made into some of the biggest blockbusters and TV shows. And look at the boys. I mean, you
mhm.
tell me that was a kid's book? No. Just because it
I
was drawn doesn't make it a kid's book.
I know it's like I watch the boys and I go, did they just do that?
Yeah.
Did they just show that?
Yep. And you're just
It's
wow.
yeah. I
Like, but
think
that show is brilliant.
mhm,
The other one, Invincible. Like I've
mhm,
as soon as I saw Invincible, I have dreamt of having my book translated into something like that, or even Voltron, like the Voltron art of the new card. Oh my god! Like
mhm,
those right there are like the little benchmarks I have that I would love. It's wish in one hand, see what
mhm.
fills up first, kind of thing. But
Hey,
it
you gotta have
definitely.
dreams. Gotta have
Oh
dreams
yeah,
to see it.
yeah. But I mean, it would just be absolutely amazing. Even if it was done like a little short, it's like I had 10 minutes of that kind of animation. I'd be just, nobody ever sees you dance. I'd be dancing. So it's
So
like, why
that's
don't
nice
you? Yeah,
to see like the like your what you had envisioned at the beginning and how Danny has grown in terms of like her look
yeah. Well,
since then.
originally, yeah, the original story it was called it was Night. I think I had it. It was like an hologram. It was a nocturnal cybernetic terrestrial entity. I mean, it was because I was going like by Cyberforce.
Acronyms.
They did the
Yeah.
shock troops, and they did
Yes.
a. And I was like at that time, being a young man, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be great." Like, no, I would not want to write that out every single time. Like, no, look at Wildcats. It was covert action teams. I mean, like they did the
Uh-huh.
wild covert, same thing. So that's where my mind was at the time, and
Hmm.
for the longest time, I was like, is this going to work? I don't know if this is going to work. Am I going to get this right? And then eventually, Marvel came out with a story with the Inhumans. And I had it where, Danny's whole, they were an alien race came down, mess with people's DNA, leave, come back, reactivate it. Whoever had the closest amount would become the upper crust. Everyone, the
Hmm.
degrading DNA down, they would have been down to like baseline humans. They would have been like treated like crap.
Right.
And my whole story of them activating the DNA would have been worldwide. Well, here Marvel does an Inhuman storyline where they explode a Terrigen bomb and it rolls around the planet and anyone who's in it, if you have strong DNA, you would become an Inhuman.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just reading the book, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding! Like, this is my entire. All
You
right,
stole it. You stole
yeah,
it.
and like, of course, they got it out first. I'm like, well, no one's ever going to believe I had it. So,
Uh-huh.
they got off the feet and got it done. So I had to go back to the drawing board.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where Danny and her whole crew came in. I took the whole thing apart, put it back together, and I kept some stuff that I liked. The secret government organization, the human alien hybrid, but I didn't go the dystopian uh, world where instead I went with modern day. And, they just run around, they do a little Men in Black. So
Mm-hmm.
it's that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's always
So,
interesting to see for me to hear where things began
yeah.
um, with creators because it gets you get to see what their influences were. You get to see um, what inspired them, um, and especially because when you come from a shared like you grew up around the same time as I did, you grew up with the same influences. It's like yeah, I totally see where you're coming from with it.
Yep.
It makes me feel like if
But at
we would have
this,
been kids next door to each other, we'd be going to the
oh,
comic
yeah.
book shop together to
Well,
reading the same.
for the longest time, I didn't want to do comics. I was like, the idea of sitting there and drawing the same thing over and over and over, and I was like, oh, I don't want to do. And I'm at Baltimore about maybe 6 years ago, yeah, something like that. 6 years ago, and I did a Batman Mandalorian mashup, and I have sold out of that like so many times. People were just going nuts over that design long before the Mandalorian was a big deal, and they kept asking me. They said, "What book are you working on?" And I'm like, "I'm not." And they're like, "Oh." I was like, "I thought this was for a book." And I'm like, "No, this is just me drawing it." And I had multiple times like, "What book do you have?" I don't. And this was before the big indie explosion. This is when just a few people were doing it. And I still kick myself for that because that would have been the time to do it.
You could have cornered the market.
Oh, would have been at least would have been ahead of the game, And it's
uh,
I said, well, I guess I'm doing a book.
mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, what can I use? And I thought, well, I've got this story just lying around I've had sitting, wanting to do forever.
Mm-hmm.
But then, I started working on it, and I was working on it like the original and retooling it. And then that storyline came out, I remember, and I'm like, okay, so now the whole book has to be done. And being a 9 to 5, you don't have all the time to get into this stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
as the days go on, days escape you, and you're like, oh, I got to get to this, but I got to do other stuff first. You just don't get back to it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where, if you look at issue 1 and you get to issue 3, you're going to see a big difference in my art, even from those couple like 2 years, two and
Right.
a half years. It took me that long to get back around. These books, normal books are out in a month, but you've also got a group of people working on it, artists, colorists,
Mm-hmm.
letterers, writers, so they can do that. That's their job. Me, on the other hand, I'm doing it myself. I'm doing all the little bits and pieces of work. So you find
Yeah.
the time when you can. You got to have a life, so you go out, you do things. But people are always, "Are you going to come out, or are you going to be at home working tonight?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm working tonight." And it's like, "What?" It's like, you need to get out of the house. I was like, I also need to get this done. So
Well, the important
it's
thing is you did get it done. You have issue 3 now.
yep,
And you're still finding time to do like some fan art here or there on the side, and
yep, yep,
with that stuff that you did with Stranger Things. And I have to say, it's like I think you're finding a nice balance of like of finding time to create and actually doing living that you're not
yeah,
just living to work.
yep,
So,
yep. But at the same time, if I sit and don't get on this, it's gonna sit. And, a week goes by, and it's like, hey, you should have had like 3 pages done already. And it's already been a week. Like, what are you doing?
mhm.
And you're sitting there talking to yourself, like, let's get going. We got to. If you want to get this done, you better do it now. Because
So yeah, let's talk about that. Aside from, I mean, what do you tell yourself to keep yourself motivated and just is it because you mentioned that you were trying to get something done for like Terrific Con. So do you set like your own milestones based on appearances, like appearing in
well, I
events,
wanted to. Yeah, if you
or
got
do you
a if you got
have
a big show and you got people walking by and you can promote a Kickstarter,
it
that's
helps?
all those eyes that never might not have seen. And that's one thing I am bad with is promotion. I need to do more podcasts. I need to do more promoting, and I just don't. I think on some level I feel bad bugging people, but you have to. But it's
Oh,
like, you don't want to stand there. Hey guys, I've people are having hard times. People don't have money. They're tight.
mhm.
They got to spend on other stuff. So there you are at the door, like a vacuum salesman from the old days. Like, hey, you wanna
Well,
buy.
I'm gonna say is that yes, that can kind of feel that way, but who else is going to promote you, right? It
Exactly,
has
yeah.
to be you or no one else,
Yep.
and
It's like I
and
gotta bug
unless
people. I gotta bug you. I gotta say, hey, you got any money this week? You want to spend $10?
at
It's
least
like,
you're
look,
not a bully. It's like
right?
at least you're not a bully. You're giving you're saying, hey, look what I have a product. I have something that you
Yeah,
don't even know that you want. And it's and I think that that's the key is that who's going to sell your stuff better than you,
no.
and you know your product, you know your character, you know the story, and that's the difference, you know.
I've got a lot. I've got a group of people that it's a list of them that are super fantastic. They're always supportive. They're always there. It's like I count on them.
Hmm.
They want to see me succeed. They want to see what's going on. And if they can say, "Hey, I know that guy," I think that's like the little extra they can add to the whole thing. To
You can be like you'll be that guy when the groupies that follow you and then they like go, yeah, I knew Jared when he wasn't the big
yeah,
Jared. I knew when
yeah,
he was just the up and coming Jared, and
mm-hmm,
look at him now. Got He
yeah.
has a Netflix cartoon, he has a live action
Oh, that was
movie
fun. I did that
series.
for April Fools. I made a because the graphic design played in. I recreated an entire Netflix page to look like this had become a cartoon,
Oh, really?
and I posted it, and of course on April Fools, and so many people did not get it, and I was getting phone calls and so many phone calls that day and like messages like, "Where is it?" I'm like, "What?" I was like, "I'm on Netflix. I'm doing a search. Why isn't it here? Like, what am I missing?" I'm like, "Do you know
April
what day
Fool's,
it
dude.
is?" Yeah, I said, "You know what day it is, right?" And they're like, "Oh my god!" It's like I've been looking for this for 20 minutes. I couldn't find it, and that was so fantastic.
Well,
But
you stumbled on the most brilliant PR move that you could ever do, right?
yeah,
You should totally play that up. Fake it and get people to
I think
believe
after
in
a
it. And
certain
next,
degree, Netflix would be like, "You need to stop doing that." It's like we don't
well,
have your show. Stop doing that.
that's where you change the logo slightly,
Yeah.
so it
Yep.
looks kind of like Netflix, but it's not
Yep.
Netflix. And then from there, that way you don't get any into trouble. With the you don't have a Netflix knocking at your door going, you can't do this, Jared.
I kind of wonder
So.
what the line is there. It's like, as long as I guess you're not making money off the promotion, I guess, or it's more, it's less satire. So,
Hmm. Right. I
but
think
yeah,
they don't really care until you are like bringing in like big dough, and
yeah, yeah,
when that happens, then you have to like start paying up, or they start taking notice. So.
yep. But I don't know if we can touch on this a little bit here. Like I
Yes,
said,
yes.
I've added, like I did that shadow layer, then I've added in a couple different extra bits. Just like basically you layer everything up. And I see, then I come back in. I've got my little bit of a melt. This was like one of those brushes that was bequeathed to me by a wonderful colorist. She's super fantastic, and she's like, "This is the one I use." She goes, "Here, do you want?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I started playing with it, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" Because like Photoshop really is not supposed to be for this. This is
Uh
really
huh.
at the end of the day, people just figured it out. But Photoshop really isn't a painting
Yeah.
program like that, and you get the brushes right, and you can still
Hmm.
do it, and you start to get that nice blend in there on everything. And
Have you thought about moving to Clip Studio? Because I heard some good things about Clip Studio. Have you?
I actually do have Clip Studio, and I have also heard that they are going to start charging
Yes, I
for.
heard that too. It's going to be
Yep.
like Photoshop, like or like our Creative Suite
Well,
for
it's like
Adobe.
the updates or something they're doing. You're not going to just get free updates now, because even if you
Mhm.
paid for the license. So
Yep.
if you have it now, you're good. So if you didn't get it yet, you probably should, because after this version, they're not going to give any more free upgrades. And then they said something about version 3 will be changed again, and version 4. So I don't
Uh-huh.
know what the exact plans are, but I do have I think it's fully updated right now. I do have it, and it
Mhm.
is absolutely fantastic because it opens Photoshop documents. Some of the
Brushes.
effects, yeah,
Yep.
you can import your Photoshop brushes into Clip Studio, which was very cool.
Hmm.
But there are certain effects from Photoshop that do not translate over to Clip, so you will lose them.
Oh
So there
no.
are certain
Yeah.
things you have to like. I think like these glows here do not translate as well over.
Hmm.
So certain things, certain effects, you have to watch. But it
Yeah.
is a very very good painting program. I very much enjoy it. And I
All
just
right.
found an
So,
oh
oh, I
no,
just
go
want to
ahead.
let you know that the time expired, but I'm gonna add 5 extra minutes because I want you to, to continue doing a little bit more coloring and talking a little bit about your coloring process, and and then we'll go from there. So, because I feel like we talked about a lot of other things, but we didn't get a chance aside from seeing the color execution. I just wanted to like maybe
Yeah.
like have you kind of like a um talk through it. So like what you're doing. So how about you just go ahead and do that?
Well, like right now, you lasso it. I'm on my everything's got its own layer, so we're on the overcolor layer right now. So if you turn that off, everything, you know, and of course we're on a circular object right now, so you want to have a bit of a circular effect. But everything is a buildup. Everything is um, it's all layered. So it's kind of like when I'm teaching painting there. You don't go in heavy right away. If you go in heavy, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to find any more room to work with. So everything is a buildup. Everything is just a gradual layer until you get the effects that you're looking for. And once you start combining them together, that's when you start to get what you're like here. This is two different versions here, but varying degrees of pressure and everything else. You go in light and you build it up. So,
It's
and then
kind of like
some,
when you do Copics, like you
yeah,
go in light.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. If you've ever worked with markers, same thing. You
Mhm.
start with a light color, you lay it down, then you start with a darker color. And sometimes a lot what I like to do is like with the black here, if I turn that off, you can already see a difference between the medium. But what you do is, let's take a spot down here. All right, so you've got this regular gray right here. You go to a medium black. So I pick black. All right. See, you got that color right now. We go down to
Mhm.
overcolor, sample out of there, and now you get a darker that isn't super heavy, but it is complementing that area that you just so you get to layer up your gradation up from a light color into the dark, but it's not like you don't go boom right from stark contrast from a medium color like just directly to black.
Right.
Because I mean, if you come to the black and you do that, then you get this. Well, that's obviously not going to work because you lose all your kind of thing. So, and then if you come back into your overcolors and you feel like, sometimes I have highlights on a separate layer, sometimes I don't. It all depends. But that's the one thing too when you're using that other black layer. You see there how you leave the say it hides there. So sometimes your highlights can be affected by that as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's all about where you want to have your layering done, and it's all just a build up. But these are like the little tricks I've learned from other people, or I learn, you're trying something one day, and I was like, oh, that worked. I was like, so let me apply it here and let me try it a little different. Oh, all right. It's just you got to keep messing around until you figure out what works for you.
Yeah, as long as you don't have to like go, man, I got to redo everything.
Yeah.
So as long as it's not
Ex-
one of those
yep.
situations.
No, you don't want to. And then sometimes it's also good, save a copy of it. Put a, there like that was a double sampling of the same color, and you can already see the difference. If I take the black off, and it just adds to it. So I mean, even by itself, right now, it works.
Yeah,
But it gives you that
and that's
nice.
I
Yep.
think that was another thing too. Is like even though that you're learning these new techniques, it's not like you're saying, well, I got to go back and do remaster issue 1 or remaster issue 2. You're saying, well, I've learned these new techniques, so let's just move those new techniques on further, on like telling the story further. You don't have to feel like you need to go all the way back and redo everything, type stuff.
Yep.
Because that's part of it. We talked about evolution. You don't need to like go backwards. You can still go forwards. You just execute and implement everything that you learned on the next go around.
Yep. And you always too, if that's a certain color. If you don't have a specific light source, let's say you just want to light it in general, then I pick that color, lighten it up, and then you boom, and you get
Mm-hmm.
that nice content. That's where I get those rich kind of colors. But if she had, something orange off to the right there, then you're going to do something like that instead. You know,
Right.
maybe depending on how close the light source is to her, that's the more intense you get the color. But that's the general idea. Your light source and will influence what colors you choose. So
All right, we're coming up on
yeah,
the last 10 seconds. So
all
let's
right.
I'm going to try and put some heavier lines in some places so this doesn't look. I conscientiously tried to be a little cleaner this time around. I think you're having a positive influence on me. It's like trying to not be as wonky or as messy. I actually tried to be a
Well, it's
little bit
definitely good I
cleaner.
prep first because, like I said, when I draw, it's hideous. Like it's anyone that's looking at it was like, oh, I was like, just wait till I get to the end. You
I
know,
go, ooh, oh my gosh,
sometimes
that's
it's
so
like, oh, what's going on over there? Because it's very, it's all over.
good.
I mean, literally, if I get in, let's say I grab it quick, go to this, and I'm gonna draw a face. You know, this is my face to start. That's it. Yeah, I know
It's
my
like no,
ears are. Yeah,
you just go done. Just sign that. That's done.
yeah.
It's done.
There's the chin. There's my head. There's my. You know what I mean? Like that's the start of it, and you're like, what is going on? Like, yeah, that's why it's gonna take me a while to get this finished. So
No problem. It's
if I
it's all
re-prep, yeah,
it's all the process. It's like
yep,
that.
yep.
But that being said, let's zoom out. Let's check this out. Let's see what you've done. Oh my gosh! And I only remember what it looked like when you did your flats. And just
Oh, I can
can
do that
can
one
you
if you.
like okay, go into Photoshop history and click on it like where it was at before, like when you first started, like when you opened the document or something like that.
Let's see,
Yeah,
where's my history?
yeah. Oh
Oh,
wow, this actually is really cool to see that.
yeah, it's like there was the
Look at
first. That
that.
was yeah.
That goes to show how far it's changed. Look at
That
that.
went. It went very
Okay, how
smooth
about
too.
okay before we see if anybody. I'm gonna look in the art show to see if anybody drew along with us. But why don't you go ahead and just like maybe click through your history and kind of like just talk a
Well, it
little bit
only
about
goes.
what you did.
Yeah, I only have it so far here. That's the whole thing. But where
Okay,
are my
all
lines?
right,
There, there.
yeah,
So there's that. There are my flats.
yeah.
Lines close. Oh, that's right. Yeah, because this is what I end up doing. So with the lines, like I do that a lot of the time too. I'll leave all this blank. It looks kind of like a coloring book. If I want to go back to these lines, if you color this all black, you're going to lose those lines. You're going to lose all your little highlights and stuff. You're not going to know where you were at. So sometimes then I'll
Mm-hmm.
add in that as a separate layer, and that'll get you the effects. But there have been times where I'll cover her entire, like she'll be solid black, and I'll come through with the marquee tool instead. And like I'll just come through and I'll do whatever little marks I want to do, a little design, then I'll hit delete. And that's where I'll get her, the shininess coming in off of the suit.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, there's always a certain different way. If you want to do it one way, you want to do it another way,
Okay,
whatever
yeah, this is
works.
Jared. This is Jared's way. So let's.
Right. Then
And
you
then
lay your
here's your
flats.
flats. Yep.
Yep, yep. Go with your gray, your baseline colors. Interesting note too, her color choices are strictly, and this is kind of silly, they were chosen by the markers that I had in my bag at the time, and I didn't
Okay.
hate it. So I was like, oh, I don't hate this. Okay, so let's just stay with these colors. That's where her color choices come from. It wasn't anything specific.
Oh, we don't
So,
need to. We need to. You need to come up with some crazier story than that. But you know what? It's nice to see that.
well,
It
one
was.
thing I do study,
Uh
look at any kind of tropical frogs
huh. Uh-huh.
and look at their color schemes and combinations. Sometimes I would. There actually, I lie. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I did lie. I did have the color though. It was a periwinkle. I was lucky I had the color. It was a black and periwinkle frog that I found.
There you go.
And I loved
Okay.
it. It didn't have, there was no purple on it though. The purple was me, but the black and periwinkle, it was a like just a tropical frog. And I
Uh-huh.
thought, my God, that's a striking just jump. There was no white, no purple, just black and peri. So I've added
Uh-huh.
the rest, but
Uh-huh.
that's right. I do recall like that is just a neat. Nature gives you that nice color palette
Well,
you can go
how
back
about
and
this?
forth with.
You can fuse that. You could say that it was destiny that in your marker bag only
Yeah,
those colors, and they happen to coincide with the colors of tropical frogs.
it was close. The periwinkle, it was yeah, it
So
was
there you
very
go.
close. It was close enough that I was like, okay, I'm going with that idea.
All
Yeah,
right, I'm gonna
but
let you go ahead and keep on. Let's just click through this quickly,
and
and
of course, there's like
uh,
a difference there without the shadows. Like
yeah,
there's
look at
my
that.
my overcolors there on just
You can see instant, like it's like instantly you've added a three-dimensional look to it just with
it gives you depth.
those,
Yep.
yeah, just by adding those shadows and
Or if you
some
just and this is kind of like the Magnola, but Magnola doesn't even do this. Yeah,
mhm.
he doesn't do the black shadowy like there's none of this going on. It's literally two colors. So either this
That's
color
it.
in black
Mhm.
or this color in a darker version. But I guess on some level it could count as the same. You're basically by using this layer, you're using your existing color as a darker version of itself.
Yeah.
So it's still the same idea to a degree, but
Mhm.
and then you come in
Look
with
at
the
that.
highlights. Yeah, the
I mean, look
depth,
at
the
her hair
highlights.
and
Yep.
the hot spots that you put in there with the uh, somebody the hot spots, but
Yeah.
it's
The hot
interesting.
spots.
That
Yep.
has double meaning. But
Yep.
anyway, I like the hair too, like how you've added that um, that fuchsia color to it. It
Yep.
just
Yep.
pop. It's like that's it. It pops it. This is
And I've
Jared
seen this
color.
hairstyle. I've seen girls with a mohawk, with the purple and the pink, and I'm like, oh wow, I did a good job. I picked the right because I'm not a hair anything. So me, I'm just
Uh-huh.
guessing like, oh, I like these two colors, and then I saw somebody do it in real life. I have
Hmm.
seen those exact colors, and it is striking. It looks amazing. So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
that works. So
And tropical frogs.
yeah, and tropical frogs.
They often have that kind of hairstyle as well.
Yep,
But I was
absolutely.
gonna say, but yeah, and it works. And then you have just those the neon green with the white highlights there on her
It is
face.
funny though. I have seen
Yeah.
two versions of this where sometimes it's white
Hmm.
and it works, but then I've also seen where this works
Oh,
as
that's
well,
interesting. Yeah.
but it doesn't quite jump like the white does.
It's not as piercing
Right.
as
Yeah,
as
that's
the
I mean
white.
if you
Yeah.
can even go a lighter green, but even a lighter green still you might as well
Yeah.
just move to white.
Yeah.
So I mean those are the things there also that you find as you're messing around. It's like, yeah,
Mhm.
that's just a better way to
Wow.
yeah.
Well, thanks, Jared. I'm glad that we got to see your coloring process here because that's one of the most striking aspects of your art is how you're able to get this really rich palette and just make it punch.
Mhm.
It only accentuates your your panels when they have a punchy artwork. When you have like Wyatt coming out there, breaking the panels, and then you have like that really nice color combination that just really, like you said, makes it jump off the page.
Yep.
So very cool. Don't show us all your secret brushes there.
I get
It
these
looks like
they're not all mine.
okay. All right.
I hunt for a lot of them, so yeah.
Right. That's part of the fun finding those brushes. And it's not like even
Mhm.
when you find them, it's not like I wish it was the case that you find the brush of your favorite artist and then automatically makes you draw just like them. It never happens. Never happens. But
No.
it's good to find those brushes to help you get there. At least get you halfway there. You have the brush to work along with. Look at that. Just a quick
Yeah.
little brush
That's what I
stroke
was
there, and
looking
it
for here.
adds.
Where is it the Dodge? I can't remember which. Yeah, see, and then
Oh, look at that.
you start to get there's all sorts
Mhm.
of neat,
Mhm.
neat little
Tricks you can play around
see how
with.
it
Look at
starts,
that.
yeah, it makes them jump, yeah.
Instant background there, which
Yep.
creates even more depth.
Yep.
Wow, you're letting our audience see all the secrets there. That's very
That's
cool.
all you're getting though. That's all you get. That's it.
Okay, all right.
That's all you get.
Speaking of
Sorry.
audience, I checked out our art show page, and it looks like our comments. It looks like
What did
we
we
didn't
get?
get anybody
Aaron?
draw along with us. I think
What?
today was kind of a bummer, but you know
That's all
what?
right.
It's going to be one of those things where it's going to be available on demand. People are going to be able to check this out later. So maybe, just maybe, you'll get some other art from some people that watch it at a later viewing. And like
Yeah.
I want to encourage everybody to, if you didn't draw along with us today or this exact moment, if you watch this on demand, please feel free to go into the comment field and drop. Say that you drew at a later time, and you can always post it to their art show later on. And you could tag Jared, and he can check it out.
Yeah.
So in the
Yeah,
meantime, Jared,
please.
you're gonna have to contend with just me being your fanboy.
That's all right.
So I'm sorry. I know I can't measure up, but you know, I try and do my best. So let me show you my piece real quick,
Yeah, please. Let's see. What do we got?
and we can go to the next phase of the show. So hold on one second. Let me share it real quick, and here we go. I need to minimize your screen. All right, so
Oh,
here's
very nice.
so I always like to try and do worm's eye view worm's eye view or bird's eye view. I try not to do anything that's like straight on. And your
Right, right.
character was just so cool. I wanted to have her like go in this leaping, like she's leaping away and
Mm-hmm.
thinking, and who's pursuing her thinks they got her on the run, but she's like, nope,
I
fooled
love
you.
the design of the gun too, and that's why I always encourage. It's like, look, her gun is never, it's never exactly the same, and that's the fun part. It's like you don't have to be a
Mhm.
stickler as long as it's got the general look, the general color. Any
Uh,
design is very fun. You can just go with it, and that's what I like. Like that's a design there I haven't seen. That one's more of a I want to say like a rounded rectangle-ish kind of.
yeah,
Yeah, like I like
I
that
think
design.
it's one of those things is that I had a lot of fun drawing Danny.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and you leave it open enough that her gun could actually look different, even in the same book. You know, like
Yep.
if she like changes the gun after she's used it and then pulls it out later on, it could change again. Or like
Yeah.
maybe the gun could change if she's facing a different adversary. But I think that's kind of the fun aspects of your character is that you leave a lot of room for interpretation, but there are still signature elements that make Danny look like Danny. You know, whether
So I
it's her
think yeah, I've got one
facial,
where
yeah,
it like forms and like it forms spikes on the end of it. So
uh-huh.
I think I'll leave a little bit out here, but in the fourth issue, I've already got like 20 pages doodled out for issue 4.
Uh-huh.
And at one point, I do believe I have the gun. It grows spikes, and she like jams it into somebody. So
Oh,
and
so
then blast it. So yeah,
yeah, it becomes like a melee weapon, like close
kind of
combat.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah, she can go all Tony Stark and like do the arm blasters, but then later on change it into like a spiked blade and be able to take
Yep.
people
Yep.
out and like. Yeah, I'm gonna have to like maybe put some spikes in here too. See what happens with it.
Yeah, it's
But
open. Like
uh,
sometimes I have hoses running off, and I don't know why
uh,
I did it, but I did it there, and
well,
sometimes
you
I
know what?
like them and they
No,
work.
no one
And
has to. You don't have to answer it. You're the creator. You
just
can
like,
put.
where are the hoses going? I was like, don't worry about it. So
Well,
they're attached
yeah.
to her.
Wait, I think that that's the thing about the '90s too. I think that we love is that what are the pouches? What's in the pouches? Why does Cable have
Yeah,
like 10 guns and like what does that tube or that magazine go to? It's like it doesn't. It's like it doesn't matter. It's just you
it's
do it
accessory.
because it's an
It's
it's a
exactly it.
flair. It's flair. You know,
Yep.
it's like a you know you want to have enough flair. Okay, so we did our live drawing, and I'm just gonna look at the comments here. There was we got Sarah who always
Hello,
usually
sir.
draws along with us, but she
I do
comes from
remember that. Yeah.
yeah, but she's in Egypt and she's taking Japanese class. So she unfortunately her
Japanese in
schedule.
Egypt.
Yeah, it's interesting. She is the most. She knows her manga. She knows her anime. And she knows her
Nice.
Japanese. She speaks Japanese. I think she writes Japanese too. But unfortunately, her class has kind of like fallen into the same time period as we do our shows, so she usually
Mm.
comes in a little later. So I want to say welcome or say hello to Sarah. Hopefully you can draw along with us. In fact, I encourage you to watch the show, Sarah. Draw some of Jared's characters and then post it to the art show and tag me or tag Jared. That way he can
Yeah,
see it.
please.
I encourage you to do that. All right, so let's keep the show moving right along.
Yep. Yep.
So all right, so we talked about your successful Kickstarter. Let me pull up at your actual page because I know that this is already done. So unfortunately, I'm going to be sharing this, but you won't be able to support the Kickstarter. But you can definitely still go to his store and pre-order later on. It's going to be issue 3 will be available later on as a
Yeah, if you
pre-order.
send me messages or something like that, or
Yeah,
yeah, you get me on the site, you get me on Instagram, any of these places. If you want a book, like I
yeah.
said, fulfillment has to go through for everybody else first. Always
Mhm.
make sure the Kickstarters get their goodies ahead of everyone
Yeah.
else. They paid for it, so after that, it's open to whoever wants. Yep,
And
absolutely.
I just yeah, I just wanted to stress. I mean, get in touch with. Actually, let me go. I'll do this right now. Let's if you look here at the bottom of the screen, this is how you can follow Jared. You can get in touch with him. So if you're interested in issue 3, you can at least let him know so you can like gauge what the interest is in that, so that when he puts it live, he'll know about how much to print for it outside the Kickstarter uh, backing. Like once he gets that taken care of, or fulfillment once he gets those fulfilled. Um, but I wanted to like talk to you about or showcase this because he had 35 backers, and he also had, unless Jared had 35 family members, that like decided to
It
back him.
wasn't all, yeah, it wasn't all family members. I
I
swear.
was, I was gonna say is that he had 35 people that believed in Jared, that are fans of his, and wanted to make this issue a reality. Uh, he blew past his goal, which I think was like 2,000. So he got to 2,661. Fulfilled back, we were just short of this. He was backed or fulfilled successfully, or it was back successfully back on the 26th. But I told him, hey, when I booked him for this for this showing, I said we're gonna make sure that it'll be a celebration. Let it out, because I was
Yep.
prophesizing that you were going to be funded, and bang, here you are. You were successfully funded. So I wish that I could predict that I was going to win the lottery and be a
Yeah,
billionaire like
really.
that. But
That's
but at least I
nice.
predicted this. But I'm going to just scroll through this real quickly, just so that people can kind of see, what was available through the Kickstarter. And again, sorry you won't be able to get any of the goodies with it, but you can still get the main issue when it's available on his store. But these were some of the variant covers. This is about the book. Got to see some of the sequentials. I'm going to go scroll through this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jared, do you want to talk a little bit about this campaign while I'm going through this?
Yeah, that in the past I've done where exclusive covers where people couldn't get them. This one here, I did the one. It was the Saratoga exclusive. There were 50 issues. I still have some left. I think some people actually grabbed them in the Kickstarter as well. So once those are gone, like that's it. Like there are no more of that cover. So I mean, that was like the
Uh-huh.
special grab for this. That if you missed it, if you're one of the last few that can get one, will it
Uh-huh.
be worth anything? If you want to have a special cover that no one else has, it's definitely a good grab. But the other four will always be available past, whereas I didn't have that before because I
Mm-hmm.
just feel like some of those artists, they should have their stuff out there more often. But there was original artwork going out there. Like I think it had the first 10 physical backers were getting one of a kind, like 4x6 sketches of mine. Like nobody else is getting those. So if you backed it, that's what you get, and you're going to be the only one with it. Trading cards and here were the little extras you could add on if you
Mm-hmm.
wanted stuff like that. But yeah,
Yeah, and I like these too because it adds a little bit of charm to the book itself. I mean, some people say they just want the book; they don't need any of
yeah,
the extra stuff. But
I
to
like to
me,
throw a
it's
little
like
something in there. Yeah,
this is what makes it a little bit adds a little bit of charm to it, because especially if they're exclusive just to the Kickstarter, like you can't get these anywhere else. And it gets to also show, when you have swag, you got Jared swag. You can go to the next convention wearing, like, having the keychain or some stickers on your
yeah.
bag or something like that, to show you, hey, this is my love to the special creator that inspired me, to like draw along.
Like the hats, I even make the hats. Like the hats, I might throw in. I
Mhm.
might throw a couple of those into some of the people here that pledge just for big thank yous for coming out and doing it. But I mean, there'll be. I had that digital grab um, the digital grab bag there that it was like a mystery.
Oh,
I was going to put artwork in that
this one.
yeah, nobody had seen stuff yet. I have a folder full of things I haven't even shown people.
Oh,
So I mean,
so
like, yeah,
yeah, so
yeah,
that's an incentive. Of course, the campaign is over, but if when Jared does his next campaign, if there's a mystery box, it's not like the mystery box is going to be filled with like just reject stuff. It's like there's
yeah.
going to be some surprises, maybe some exclusive stuff that no one's ever seen. So
Yep.
it's a this is me plugging the next campaign for you, Jared. Anybody
Thank you.
that's watching, got to do the mystery box.
Yep.
Aside from, hey, support multiple tiers. Get the mystery box. Get something else.
Yeah,
That
so
way you can
throw a little
see like
something in.
maybe, yeah, you never know what's going to be in there. But I want to say congratulations to you again because it's not easy doing because it seems like everybody's doing Kickstarters, man. I think when I started,
I've heard it's been
yeah,
rough here. It's like even this
yeah,
month, like a lot of people are having a very, and I get it because
yeah,
times are tough. Like inflation's
it
up,
is.
everyone's paying bills rather than buying
Yes,
comics. It's totally understandable. It is a
yeah,
gamble. So
yeah,
that's why I say when anyone throws money at it, it's like thank you so much. I know how things
mhm.
are. Thank you so much for that because that's it's at least 35 people that believe in me. So
Yeah, absolutely. It's more than
yeah,
that. And
yeah, yeah,
I want to say that it's you are so right. Not everybody has like tremendous disposable income here,
yeah.
and for anybody to make because I think the thing about indie comics and supporting somebody on a Kickstarter or crowdfunding in general, that's a commitment. That
It
shows
is.
that your fans, somebody that's putting their money down, they're it's their time and money they're putting into you because they really believe in you. It feels more it's a more intimate connection than anything that you could do when you just go to the comic shop and buy an issue off the rack, from a big name, big company. It's like
Yeah.
and then you on your end, you are putting these packages together. You're all 35 of these backers. You're going to be putting these together. You don't hire like a whole team of people to pack all this stuff up. You're taking the
No, I'm
time
not
to
that
show your
big.
appreciation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's
uh,
like I look at like a Lady Death Kickstarter, and I'm like, oh, it's like like you see how many people Polito's got working for him. It's like, my God, that is a
well,
full time job. Like that is the full time job, and that's just crazy to me. But it's
well,
cool that
that's
there's that many people out there that want that stuff that they want to give it to people. So
yeah, and I think that that's one of the things too. And Jared, you'll get there. I think Advent Dark, it has
that'd be
some interesting
nice.
stories, and I think that
Even if
it
I
has so
semi
much
got there, I'd
content.
be happy. It's like I get enough people. If I got 100 people buying it, I'm happy. It's there have been a lot of
Well,
books at the
we're
shows. A
gonna help.
lot of books have gone out.
Yeah,
So
we're gonna help you get there. So I just want to like also let everybody know this is how you can contact him. His social media
yep.
handles there at the bottom. Okay, so let's talk about the future. I'm gonna wrap these two together. The future for Jared, and I want you to go ahead and segue into your Oscar speech, which is your thank
Wow.
yous, and
Well,
I want you to just wrap all those things together. So uh and this is the thing about the future. I'd like to say, like, what do you see is going to happen in the next 10 years with Advent Dark? I know that there was some hush hush top secret stuff that
yeah,
I'm going to go ahead and make myself say, Gerald, don't mention any of those hush hush stuff because,
don't say anything. No.
yeah, I'm going to say that, Jared. I'm gonna make a little note and I'm going to go ahead and date it to like August or October of 2023 because then when I have you back on the show in 2023, then we're going to talk about those things we
There's no pressure. Hopefully things happen too. So it's like so we get back around to that later. What happened? I don't know what happened.
I'm gonna go ahead and say, I prophesized that your Kickstarter was gonna be fun, and so I'm gonna say there's gonna be at least. Well, I can tell already one of the things that you told me. It's already happened. It's just a matter of getting the official okay for you to talk about it.
Oh
The
yeah,
other
yeah,
thing,
yep,
yeah. So you're halfway there with at least with the two things that I can't mention.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
already you're
yep.
already halfway there. So that being said, let's talk about just besides those two things, which are the future, where you see yourself going in the next 10 years with Advent Dark, with any other future IPs, with Dark Stream Studios, then also your Oscar speech. So I'll put the mic. I'm going to solo you out right now, and let's hear what you have to say.
Well, to start with the Advent Dark stuff, next 10 years, kind of a rough. I mean, would I like to be working on it in 10 years? Absolutely. Would I like it to be big in 10 years? Who wouldn't? You want your stuff to be big, but I mean, I have lofty goals, but to be realistic, I have at least four more volumes I want to fill, varying sizes. One could be 6 issues, one could be 24. Time, money,
Yes.
help, things like that. Those are all the things that are a factor. But in my head, I have at least four more volumes of big story to tell. I would like to have all that done. And I'd like to have a sizable library of books that people could go out and say, hey, I bought the 5 volumes of Advent Dark, and they're so much fun. I got them sitting on my shelf. That's what I'd like to see. I
Hmm.
mean, that's where I want to be. That's and I think it definitely is plausible. And with that being said, I've also got a couple other stories that will be branching out of this universe that are going to tie in originally, and then they're going to move out onto their own. Are they going to be as lengthy? No, probably. Might be 3 issues for just that one, but just to have it is the plan. So I do plan to expand the universe a bit outside of Danny and her crew. And basically, yeah, it's like the big sandbox. You get all the kids to come over and play. Like some of them are over here, some of them are over there, but they're all in the same sandbox. So that's where my plans are for that kind of thing. But as for Darkstream and all the other things, it's anywhere from a freelance gig to more professional stuff. That's where I'm at right now as well. It's slowly building things up, just choosing where I'm going to go and which direction, and I guess we'll see what happens from there. I mean, ideally, at the end of the day, I was trying to make it where if I did expand a universe, if I did make things a little bigger, you need that umbrella name. With Darkstream Studios be the umbrella name, and then Advent Darks down underneath it, and all the following other comic titles.
Hmm.
Or do you keep it as freelance? It's just Darkstream's the all-encompassing. Doing shows, doing commissions, doing fan art, doing Advent Dark. That's the whole of it right there. It's all underneath that name. So it's just building it as each day goes and trying to get bigger and bigger with it. But
Tell it's a household name, right? Tell it's a
yeah, until
household
it's a household name, then people will be like, "Oh, look, he's got one of the Dark Stream books." Yeah, like that's what I want. That would be great. But again, lofty goals.
name. Okay.
You
Hey,
got
gotta have those goals because that way
absolutely.
you can shoot. You can shoot for the stars with that stuff.
If you don't
Uh,
try, you never know. So,
exactly.
yep.
So let's talk about your Oscar speech now. So let's say about just what any of your final thoughts. If you want to say thank you to anybody, here's your opportunity.
Well, I say thank you to everybody who always is there, always supports, buys the book, talks about the book. I always say every little bit helps. If you can't afford it, it's fine. Tell somebody about it, share it, like it. It's always nice that somebody takes a moment to be like, you know what, I want to help. I want to help
Hmm.
him out. It's nice that he's doing this, and those are the people there that are super fantastic. Like I said, Rob, local shop owner, he's got a little case. All my books are in there. People have come in,
Oh.
and it's fantastic that he really lets me have that kind of space to.
Uh-huh.
And amazing. I've had a lot of people. They're like local artists. Yes, please. They
Yes.
take them, and I've a lot of books have moved out of that store on behalf of
Mhm.
him. So and I've always got the close friends that always liking, always sharing, always telling people, trying tracking stuff down. It's like, hey, I talked to this guy, I sent him your way.
That's
Anything
the
like that. It's always feels good that someone took a moment to think about you and think about what you're
that's
trying to
the that's
accomplish.
the that's the best kind of advertising and marketing. The free kind. That's word of mouth.
Yeah.
That's
And I always try to pay it back. Like, if somebody needs something, if they're looking for something, if I want to send people to the store, go over here, go see them, go buy some stuff off of them. Like that's anything I can do to my side to help. I always do.
yeah.
So yep. So but yeah, it's
And
just
yeah. I'm going to remind you. Got to give a shout out to Johnny C. He's your partner in
yep,
crime.
yep. He was at the end there, Johnny C. It's great.
Yeah.
We help each other out on a lot of stuff, and he stepped up when I lost Shell from the first issue writing,
Uh-huh.
and he really stepped up and did a lot for me, and he does a great job. And we sit back and forth and go over things, and he's got a lot of great insight, a lot of great input. He changes my mind on certain layouts and things, and it's my opinion, it's always for the better. It's like I
Yes.
said, I story, but I'm not a writer. He's a writer, so he's got a better insight on stuff. And all the artists that come in, Marius, Matt, Joe, Chris, and Kyle, especially, like all those guys come in and do the work and do a fantastic job for me to help me sell it. Like,
Yes.
also really, really great people all around. So, yeah, that's
Excellent.
yeah.
I gotta say, that's the kind of Oscar speech that I totally enjoy because
I'm
one of
terrible at those things too. So you got lucky. Yeah,
well, you did fine, and it's another adage. We thought we things. It's sort of like surround yourself with great people, So that way you can create great things, do great things, because it's like a no one wants to surround themselves with negative people because then you're
Right.
never going to do anything.
Yep. Yep.
You want to put yourself that way. You'll always be pushing each other in a very positive way to produce the best things. And
Yep.
I see that with Advent Dark. I see that with all the talent that you've been able to assemble to help you, not only Johnny C with the writing of the books interiors, but all the great covers. And then of course you had it was all supported by yet another successful Kickstarter.
Yep.
So very good stuff. So this is where I have to, we have to move towards the end of the show. This is where I get a little misty eyed because gonna have to say goodbye. But before I do that, I want to like when we end all our shows, I want to bring attention to a charity partner that we work with. And let me change the thing at the bottom here, and that's Golden Fight. And so let me bring up their page. So let me share that. All right, so this is Golden Fight, and you've heard me say it before. They're a charity that I like to say is big enough and small enough at the same time. Small enough in the sense that they're not an international organization; they're not a national organization. They have a very focused approach in the Mid-Atlantic region of the United States, my neck of the woods. And what exactly are they about? This is where they're huge. This is where they're big. Golden Fight is a charity that reaches out and helps families who have children that are going through some really difficult times. When I say difficult times, it's like cancer. They're dealing with illnesses that can be fatal. And what's important to Golden Fight is that they want the parents to focus on the healing of their child. And if they do that, they will inevitably have financial problems or difficulties. And that's where Golden Fight comes in. This is where they're huge. I thought that whatever money that they raised, I thought it was like maybe 97, 98% would go to the family, and that like nominal or that really tiny amount of that 2-3% would go toward taking care of administrative things that any charity has to deal with. But no, this is where they're huge. Golden Fight gives 100% of the money they raise to to the parents that have children that they're hoping to heal, and that's tremendous. 100%. All of their leadership does this on a volunteer basis. They have big hearts, and we are proud to talk about them and get eyes on them, just like our guests. We are not financially tied to them at all, but we just want to bring awareness to them. So if you have time, check out goldenfight.org, and if you want to find a worthy charity to donate to, consider them. So goldenfight.org. All right, so let me move that. And I'm going to bring our faces back to the forefront so we can see Jared one more time. I'm going to pop up his social media right here. One last time, you can go check out these. I give you permission to do that now because the show is coming to an end.
Please
but I
do.
want everyone,
We'll follow.
Yeah. Go like, follow, support. Look. Make sure you follow him and you reach out to Jared, because that way you can be in the know when Volume 4 drops of Advent Dark. And who knows? Maybe you want a commission done. Maybe you want to learn more and get extra. Be in the know of anything that's Advent Dark or Darkstream Studios related. This is the way that you got to do it. So I encourage you to like, follow, support if you can, Jared. And that's the thing. This is where I'm going to get a little, like I said, misty eyed. So go check that out. That being said, the September is going to be a little. We're working on our my guests. I know at least 1 week I will not be live just because of some things that I'm going to be doing with my family. But I'm always going to, any weekend that I have that's free, it's all about promoting indie creators. And this weekend was no exception with Jared. So Jared, thank you for being my guest.
Thank you for having me.
I do appreciate you. And like I said, I hope and look forward to you being on the show again in I want to say a year, a little less than a year, so that we can let the cat out of the bag in terms of the stuff that you shared with me in terms of what you got planned. So like, share, subscribe, ComicsCast, like, share, and subscribe to Jared below. And that being said, I'm going to close it out, and we will see you next week on ComicsCast. Let it out. We'll see you later. Bye now.